not sitting in the car. I know that this particular lesson is going to be a bit more echoey than you guys are used to. I'll try a couple different things. First, I'm going to, as it is at this particular moment, where I have the the microphone on. If it starts sounding a little too funny, or if you guys think it's too bad, I'll try to take it off, and then we're going to go forwards. If you don't know, if you're new here, my name is Andrew Douglas Moon. I am somebody who identifies as a Christian, although I'm not a biblical literalist. So what that means is that I do not see the Bible as this completely perfectly inspired thing. So I believe it's inspired, but not in the sense that everything, or even a lot of things, are written directly from God himself, but from people. So I do these Bible studies to go through the actual scriptural reading, as well as lots of scholarship, study notes, things along those lines. I do welcome questions, and I do give my honest answers to the best that I can. I also am you're going to hear me say a lot that I don't know, because there's a lot of things that we don't know. None of us do. So we'll go from there. Never here to argue, never here to debate, although there will be some spirited discussion from time to time. What's up, Kia? I found out last night your brother's moving to North Carolina this weekend. That's awesome. Well, I hope that that goes very well for your brother. I'm glad your brother's moving. If you could, by the way, please let me know. I know the audio is probably echoey because we do not have our front dining room soundproofed or anything like that, but just let me know if it's at least clear enough that I don't need to try to take the microphone off and see how it sounds before I really get started. Just don't want to be driving people crazy as I do this. But if you could, yeah, just let me know. But like I said, I hope everything goes well for your brother moving to North Carolina. And yeah, so again, I'm Andrew Douglas Moon. To anybody who watches this back later or comes through, we're about to dive in. Going to cover a lot of ground. No apologetics, no making excuses. It sounds good right now. Awesome. Well, if at any point in time while you're still able to watch and listen, if it sounds funny, please let me know. So I'm about to get started. We are currently at Exodus 22. So yesterday we went through the laws, also comparing and contrasting the Code of Hammurabi. We ended it off with the law concerning slavery and things like that. Definitely, again, like I said, this is not apologetics. We are not going to be making excuses for things. We are sticking with understanding historical context, and as well getting into the weeds of seeing all the messiness going on here and the culturally understood things and stuff like that. So diving forward, we're going to be doing Exodus 22 through as much as we can possibly get through today, throughout the rest of Exodus, because I also really want to try to close this out and see if by the time that I'm done with this particular section of the study that we can get to Leviticus. From there, as well, going to be doing as much Exodus as we can. Then we're going to move forward to doing Romans, Hebrews. But before that, we're going to work through some more Matthew, because we've been going through the Sermon on the Mount, basically the Beatitudes and stuff like that. So thank you guys for popping through here. I do very long readings of scripture. I don't do little nuggets and pieces. I do that sometimes, but for the most part, when I do these streams, it's just going through very, very long passages. So I know it can be boring for people who don't care about this kind of stuff, but this is what's going to be happening. So again, I'm not a biblical fundamentalist or a literalist or anything like that. Theology is kind of all over the place based off of contextual and historical understanding, and no apologetics, just reading, understanding, and talking about it, facing stuff head on, because the Bible is a very messy place full of a lot of different things, a lot of different genres and understanding. So again, everybody's welcome here, just not going to argue and debate. Let's get started. So the laws of restitution. Exodus 22 now, like I said, going to work through as much of Exodus as we can get through today. So when someone steals an ox or a sheep and slaughters it or sells it, the thief shall pay 5 oxen for an ox and 4 sheep for a sheep. If the thief is found breaking in and is struck dead, no blood guilt is incurred. But if it happens after sunrise, blood guilt is incurred. The thief shall make full restitution, or if unable to do so, shall be sold for the theft. Sorry, by the way, I'm digging real quick for my chapstick, which I may or may not have accidentally left in the car because my lips get dry and crusty. It looks like I did. Anyway, so let's continue forward. When someone causes a field or a vineyard to be grazed over, or lets livestock loose or graze in someone else's field, restitution shall be made for the best in the owner's field or vineyard. When a fire breaks out and catches in thorns, so that the stacked grain or the standing grain or the field is consumed, the one who started the fire shall make full restitution. By the way, just throwing out this ahead of time, your connection seems to be a little patchy, kind of blurry. For some reason that happens, especially when I'm connected to Wi-Fi like I am right now, ironically, versus me doing it in a car just off a signal. For some reason, sometimes it'll take a minute for it visually to work out. So hopefully that'll work through in time. But thank you for letting me know, Key. I appreciate you. By the way, also just throwing this out there, again, there's a lot of study notes about the actual translations of some of the names and messages and stuff. So I will be stopping a lot and going through those things as well. What's up, Omar? Super happy to see you, buddy. So working through the laws of restitution in Exodus 22. When someone delivered, again, we're not doing like sermon style here when you come to my streams where I'm like taking a little passage and going, hey, let's talk about that. Just read through it and trying to get through it. Because a lot of times, again, personally, but a lot of times it seems that we just don't really read the Bible. So it's good to spend time together doing that when we can. With all religious texts, a lot of times we don't really read, see what it says, understand what means what, when and why, and how and where, and all that stuff. What was the point? What's the genres? All that junk. As well, just one last statement before I keep going. If you see me move my hands a lot, that's because this is just kind of how I help myself focus. I don't know why, it just helps me focus a little bit. So again, if you see me moving my hands while I'm reading, I'm sorry if it drives you crazy. You don't got to look, just listen. But yeah, so just throwing it out there. So when someone delivers to a neighbor money or goods for safekeeping and they are stolen from the neighbor's house, then the thief, if caught, shall pay double. If the thief is not caught, the owner of the house shall be brought before God to determine whether or not the owner had laid hands on the neighbor's goods. If in any case of disputed ownership involving ox, donkey, sheep, clothing, or any other loss, of which one party says, this is mine, the case of both parties shall come before God. The one whom God condemns shall pay double to the other. When someone delivers to another donkey, ox, sheep, or any other animal for safekeeping, and it dies or is injured or is carried off without anyone seeing it, an oath before the Lord shall decide between the two of them that the one has not laid hands on the property of the other. The owner shall accept the truth, and no restitution shall be made. But if it was stolen, restitution shall be made to its owner. If it was mangled by beasts, let it be brought as evidence. Restitution shall not be made for the mangled remains. When someone borrows an animal from another and it's injured or dies, the owner not being present, full restitution shall be made. If the owner was present, there shall be no restitution. If it was hired, only the hiring fee is due. Now it's getting to social and religious laws. All right, yeah. So when a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged to be married and lies with her, he shall give the bride price for her and make her his wife. But if her father refuses to give her to him, he shall pay an equal amount to the bride price for virgins. You shall not permit a female sorcerer to live. Whoever has intercourse with an animal shall be put to death. Whoever sacrifices to any god, by the way, I did tell you it's going to get messy as we go through here because, again, not doing any kind of apologetics, don't care for this stuff because we don't need to make excuses for stuff. We need to understand, again, these are genre literary devices. These are also here actual like them attempted like developed law codes amongst these people from a different time. We obviously know today's time, for instance, there's a lot of like new age spiritual stores just down anybody's street. You're not going to walk inside of one of those and look at a girl who sees herself as a witch and go, I'm going to kill you now. We would not do that because we do not live in that world. We have developed, like it or not, we have negotiated with and developed past this stuff. Not talking about no moral or ceremonial law distinctions or none of that later developed stuff, which again is extracting and developing things instead of leaving it as it is. We just have to be honest and say, here's stuff here that these people saw, believed, and put into place that we don't do now. For instance, again, one more commentary before we get back to it. And you don't have to agree with me, that's fine. But one more commentary is just the idea here of a man. He's got to give the. We see the world today, thank goodness. Women, especially younger women like this, were not seen as free agents. They weren't, and there's no getting around that. These people, for instance, like most Mesopotamian cultures and a lot of cultures around the world, unfortunately, saw women, I'm not being liberal, I'm being sincere here. They saw women as people who were subordinate, and they didn't seek themselves when it came. They didn't just walk out like Princess Bride, fall in love with someone and say, you're my husband now. That's not how things worked. Instead, just like when Jesus later down the road, again, as we've been reading through the Beatitudes and so forth, when he talks about why you shouldn't divorce a woman, it's because if a woman's been slept with, and she's not a virgin anymore, culturally, especially amongst these peoples here and a lot of other cultures, she's no longer a value. Just throwing that out there is that women could do as they should, could not do much, and men could do quite a bit more, and it's just the culture that it was. So, by the way, I just want to throw this out there. I keep hearing that my connection is not so fantastic. I don't. Oh, you know what? Let me see real quick. I should be connected to my home's Wi-Fi, but for whatever reason, I'm not. So let me see if I can get connected to that and see if it'll make anything better. Am I doing okay now? Before I keep going, can you guys let me know if everything's looking good, going well? Because I should be connected to the Wi-Fi. I don't know why I wasn't before, but I should be connected now and everything's going good. But yeah, like I said, I give my commentaries and my teachings here. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. So these are writings from people from a different time and a different place. And hopefully you as well, when we read stuff like some of these things, should disagree. Obviously, hopefully nobody's having intercourse with an animal, but even if someone did do that, hopefully still slightly pixelated. I don't care too much about pixelation, but I do care about you guys being able to hear me and everything processing okay. So, but thank you for letting me know. So let's go forward. You shall not wrong or oppress a resident alien, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. You shall not abuse any widow or orphan. If you do abuse them, when they cry out to me, I will surely heed their cry. My wrath will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows, and your children orphans. So in some sense, whereas we see, can't tell if it's my own internet because it would patchy like Kia said, but I can hear you good. Hey, as long as you can hear me, that's fine for me. I appreciate you guys letting me know. So, because the whole main thing here is just what we hear, and not necessarily, I'm not here to look good or anything like that, because I could give a crap less. But with that being said, I appreciate you guys for listening, and thank you for letting me know. Yeah, so when we do see things like killing a female sorcerer and all that other stuff, killing pretty much a lot of people who do wrong. On the flip side, we do see some good things, like not oppressing resident aliens and stuff, not abusing widows and orphans and things. So you see an intermingling of cultural development and good things happening here. So thank you guys for letting me know. Just want to throw that out there. If you lend money to my people, to the poor among you, you shall not deal with them as a creditor. You shall not exact interest from them. So again, a good thing. If you take your neighbor's cloak as a guarantee, you shall restore it before the sun goes down. For it may be your neighbor's only clothing to use as a cover. In what else shall that person sleep? And when your neighbor cries out to me, I will listen, for I am compassionate. You shall not revile God or curse a leader of your people. You shall not delay to make offerings from the fullness of your harvest and from the outflow of your presses. The firstborn of your sons shall give to me. You shall give to me. You shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall remain with its mother, and on the 8th day you shall give it to me. You shall be people consecrated to me, so that you shall not eat any meat that is mangled by beasts in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. So kind of like an idea here of don't eat roadkill. So not like they didn't get hit by cars, because cars didn't exist at this point. But I do want to read, I don't know how well the notes are going to be here, but I do want to real quickly read a little note here. So obviously not reviling God, it's not cursing God, but talking about offerings, inferred from passages like we'll see in Numbers 18, but the juxtaposition with the firstborn law suggests first fruits are meant but tithes and may be intended. The firstborn, we're going to see a note on 13:1-2, as we saw in the past, on the 8th day. Just want to go back and see real quick what that said, because some of this stuff I know people get a little bit hung up on. So let's see. The law to consecrate Israel's human and animal firstborn is juxtaposed with the slaying of Egypt's firstborn. So it's assumed on this basis in parallel that not only males are meant, so basically firstborn regardless across the board. With that being said, now we're getting into Exodus 23. Justice for all is the title for this. You shall not spread a false report. You shall not join hands with the wicked to act as a malicious witness. You shall not follow a majority in wrongdoing. So what everybody else is doing, let's do it too. When you bear false witness, or when you bear witness in a lawsuit, you shall not side with the majority so as to pervert justice, or as well, for certain cases, like the Hebrew lacks the term justice, but they added into a lot of translations. Nor shall you be partial to the poor in a lawsuit. When you come upon, so it's kind of telling you to be balanced, whether the circumstances, not to just choose people's side of what everybody's saying, as well also just because someone's poor or maybe seeming like downtrodden, you also don't just pick them just to pick them. It's kind of the idea. It's instead just be sincere. Let your mind focus on what's happening and all that stuff, and delegate. When you come upon your enemy's ox or donkey going astray, you shall bring it back, helping people out. When you see the donkey of one who hates you struggling under its burden, and you would hold, so when you see a donkey of one who hates you struggling under that donkey's burden, and you would hold back from setting it free, you must help to set it free. So even if you don't want to help someone, this is giving you, you got no choice. You got to help them. So you shall not pervert the justice due to your poor in their lawsuits. Keep far from a false charge, and do not kill the innocent and those in the right, for I will not acquit the guilty. You shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds officials and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. You shall not oppress a resident alien. You know the heart of an alien, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its yield. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, so that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the wild animals may eat. You shall do the same with your vineyard and with your olive orchard. 6 days you shall do your work, but on the 7th day you shall rest, so that your ox and your donkey may have relief, and your homeborn slave and resident alien may be refreshed. Be attentive to all that I have said to you. Do not invoke the name of other gods. Do not let them be heard on your lips. Which we see that definitely not being carried out going forward quite a bit. No spoiler alerts. It's just the way that it is. Everybody knows it. 3 times in the year you shall hold a festival for me. You shall observe the festival of unleavened bread, as I commanded you. You shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days at the appointed time in the month of Abib, for in it you came out of Egypt. No one shall appear before me empty-handed. You shall observe the festival of harvest. Of the first fruits of your labor, of what you sow in the field, you shall observe the festival in gathering at the end of the year, when you gather from the field the fruit of your labor. 3 times in the year, all your males shall appear before the Lord God. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with anything leavened, or let the fat of my festival remain until the morning. The choicest of the first fruits of your ground you shall bring into the house of the Lord. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Again, I just want to express this because I have people be very concerned. The term kid here is talking about, I keep forgetting if it's a goat or a lamb, either one. It is a child. I believe it's a goat. A child goat, a baby goat, a little youthful goat, whatever, not a human child. It says a kid. So I am going to send an angel in front of you. The conquest of Canaan gets promised here, which we will see going forth down and stuff like Joshua and so forth, and a better explanation. I am going to send an angel in front of you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Be attentive to him and listen to his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. Just want to throw this out there real quick, just a little notes real fast. I believe there might be notes down below, but it's not necessary. I'm just going to say this to you real quick. When we see this passage in Exodus 23 at the very end, Exodus 23:20, when we see it talking about sending an angel before you, so an angel of the Lord, and he's talking about do not rebel against him because he will not then pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. We see people like the wonderful scholar, again, agree with and disagree with him. That's your choice. I don't agree with everything he says, nor do I disagree. Dan McClellan, who is a more secularist scholar in scholarship, but also focuses around keeping his own beliefs as much as possible out of it and going for what is taught. When he talks about this, it's the same thing most scholarship teaches, that the possessor of the divine name, so this angel here representing God, representing the God himself, Yahweh, Adonai, whatever, El Elyon, all that stuff, the Most High. This angel comes forward, presents the divine name or the tetragrammaton within him, and has authority to pardon transgressions. He says, do not rebel against this angel because my name is within him, so he has my authority. He represents me. It's like a soldier going on behalf of a king, speaking on behalf of that king. Whatever that being says is what the king is basically saying as a mouthpiece for the king, is what we're seeing here. I know some of you might think this is unnecessary information, but it's good to learn this stuff, to have a deeper, enriched understanding. I did not promise you we were going to just tittle-tattle through this. Here, when I do these streams, I try to just pack your ears full as much as we can get through so we can learn and grow together. So in any way, shape, or form. So thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys. But if you listen attentively to his voice, talking about the angel here, the angel of the Lord, and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and a foe to your foes. When my angel goes in front of you and brings you to the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I blot them out, you shall not bow down to their gods, or serve them, or follow their practices, but you shall utterly demolish them and break their pillars in pieces. You shall serve the Lord your God, and I, down here also says he, but I will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from among you. No one shall miscarry or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my terror in front of you and will throw into confusion all the people against whom you shall come, and I will make your enemies turn their backs to you. And I will send swarms of hornets, as well. It also says, like, it's uncertain, the necessary exact translation could be other creatures, but it says of hornets in the Canaanites and the Hittites, in front of you, which shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites from you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the wild animals multiply against you. Little by little I will drive them out before you, until you have increased and possessed the land. I will set your borders from the Red Sea, or the Sea of Reeds, as we talked about before, to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the Euphrates. For I will hand over to you the inhabitants of the land, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant in your land, no covenant with them and their gods. They shall not live in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. Before we start reading Exodus 24, I want to read from Catherine Bonne's show, this little section about interfaith Jewish festivals going on here, just so you guys, again, get a little bit more understanding. So it says, the story of the Exodus is central to several festivals that are celebrated by modern Jewish communities, including Sukkoth, Pesach, and Shavuot. Again, I'm not pronouncing this properly. I'm not going to pretend that I can say these exactly right, so forgive me if in any way, shape, or form it's offensive. Some of these festivals, like Shavuot and Sukkoth, were originally based in agricultural practices, with Shavuot representing the harvesting of the first fruits and Sukkoth the end of the harvesting season. Today, however, these festivals are deeply informed by the story of the Exodus. During the festival of Sukkoth, or booths in translation, for example, Jews build temporary shelters that commemorate the Israelites' building of the booths during their wandering in the wilderness after the Exodus from Egypt in Leviticus 23:42-43. The modern Jewish tradition of abstaining from anything unleavened during Pesach, or biblical Passover, and the festival of the unleavened bread, also comes from an idea found in the book of Exodus that the Israelites' bread did not have enough time to rise before they left Egypt. In Exodus 12:34. The main meal during Pesach, known as a seder, includes a bitter herb called maror, or a sweet paste called cheroset. These represent the bitterness of slavery and the mortar used by the enslaved Israelites. Overall, the book of Exodus and its story are fundamental to the traditions that inform the celebration of many Jewish festivals. So again, I know maybe a lot of you don't care about this information, but I think it's nice to include so that we learn a little bit more at a time about different walks of life. So anyways, moving forwards into Exodus 24. Thank you again, everybody who comes through here, listens to me read through these things, discusses with me. I appreciate you guys a lot more than you understand, because I love that we get to have time doing this together. So then he said to Moses, come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship at a distance. Moses also shall come near the Lord, but the others shall not come near, and the people shall not come up with him. Moses went and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the ordinances, and all the people answered with one voice and said, all the words that the Lord has spoken we will do. And Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. He rose early in the morning, built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and set up 12 pillars, corresponding to the 12 tribes of Israel. Numbers are constantly important. Just like names being translational things, meaning something, to every situation here as narrative devices, literary devices. Numbers as well play an important role. Even the ages that we know of, like ages of certain people as they are spoken of, like for instance, 40 years, doesn't actually necessarily mean 40 real years. From what we know, there is meaning behind it, like traditional usages behind what that number would mean to the people. So it's really cool, really interesting literary things that we consistently learn about these peoples, like all other groups when we read their stuff. So, with that being said, he rose early in the morning, built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and set up 12 pillars, corresponding to the 12 tribes of Israel. He sent young men of the Israelites who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed oxen as offerings of well-being to the Lord. Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he washed against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people. And they said, all that the Lord has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient. Moses took the blood and washed it on the people and said, "Here is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words." Now it's on the mountain of God we're getting into. Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up, and they saw the God of Israel. Under his feet there was something like pavement of sapphire stone, like the very heaven for clearness. God, or as well he, did not lay his hand on the chief men of the Israelites. They beheld God, and they ate and drank. The Lord said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and wait there. I will give you the tablets of stone with the law and the commandment which I have written for their instruction." So Moses set out with his assistant Joshua, and Moses went up onto the mountain of God. To the elders he had said, "Wait here for us until we come back to you. Look, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a dispute may go to them." Then Moses went up on the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it for 6 days. On the seventh day, he called to Moses out of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the Israelites. Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain. Moses was on the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. You see how, just like the Noah story, again, like I said, 40 is one of those special numbers that constantly gets used for a meaning. And we will talk about those things a little bit more in depth one day when I start doing a breakdown about traditional, ceremonial, and reasonable uses for different things. So then Moses went up on the mountain. Now we're going on to offerings for the tabernacle, which is Exodus 25. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell the Israelites to take for me an offering. From all whose hearts prompt them to give, you shall receive the offering from me. This is the offering that you shall receive from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and 5 linen goats' hair, tanned ram skins, fine leather, acacia wood, oil for the lamp, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, onyx stones and gems to be set in the ephod for the breastpiece. And they shall make me a sanctuary so that I may dwell among them, in accordance with all that I show you, according to the pattern of the tabernacle and of all its furniture, so that you shall make it. They shall make an ark of acacia wood, and it shall be 2.5 cubits long, and 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold. Inside and outside you shall overlay it, and you shall make a molding of gold upon it all around. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them on its 4 feet, 2 rings on one side of it, and 2 rings on the other side. You shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And you shall put the poles into the rings on the sides of the ark for carrying the ark. We're going to see an interesting story about that down the road, may I add. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be removed. You shall put the covenant that I am giving you into the ark. Then you shall make a cover of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. You shall make 2 cherubim of gold. You shall make them of hammered work at the 2 ends of the cover. Make 1 cherub at one end and 1 cherub at the other. Of one piece with the cover you shall make the cherubim at its 2 ends. The cherubim shall spread out their wings above, overshadowing the cover with their wings. They shall face one another. The faces of the cherubim shall be turned towards the cover. You shall put the cover on the top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the covenant that I am giving you. There I will meet with you, and from above the cover, from between the 2 cherubim that are on the ark of the covenant, I will tell you all that I am commanding for you to the Israelites. I just want to take a quick look here. Cherubim, in case you've never heard of this before, which you probably have, in case you don't know, cherubim are winged sphinxes with the body of a bull or a lion and a human head. Representations of these creatures are abundant in the archaeological evidence. So we just kind of see these things being used as like an imagery and so forth throughout a lot of textual stuff and a lot of, again, archaeology for biblical archaeology, and similar types of beings and creatures are in other cultures throughout history, as far as we know. So give me just a second. I'm going to take a small little break. Well, actually, you know what? I'll finish this up and then I'll come right back. Then we're going to be at Exodus 26. You shall make a table of acacia wood, 2 cubits long, 1 cubit wide, and 1.5 cubits high. You shall overlay it with pure gold and make a molding of gold around it. You shall make around it a rim and a handbreadth wide, and a molding of gold around the rim. You shall make for it 4 rings of gold and fasten the rings to the 4 corners at its 4 legs. The rings that hold the poles used for carrying the table shall be close to the rim. You shall make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be carried with these. You shall make its plates and dishes and its flagons and bowls with which to pour your drink offerings. You shall make them of pure gold. And you shall set the bread of the presence on the table before me continually. Remember that, by the way. Try, if you can, to hold on to stuff like the bread of the presence. And then as well, when we get further into stories about David, which is going to be quite a while, it's probably going to be half a year, if not a little bit more, doing at the rate that I'm about to be doing these before we get to those stories. But just try to hold on to that stuff when we get way down the road to reading through the Gospels. So you shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The base and the shaft of the lampstand shall be made of hammered work. Its cups, its calyxes, and its petals shall be of one piece with it. And there shall be 6 branches going out of its sides, 3 branches of the lampstand out of one side of it, and 3 branches of the lampstand out of the other side of it. 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals on one branch, and 3 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyx and petals on the other branch. So for the 6 branches going out of the lampstand, on the lampstand itself, there shall be 4 cups shaped like almond blossoms, each with calyxes and petals. There shall be a calyx of one piece with it under the first pair of branches, and a calyx of one piece with it under the next pair of branches, and a calyx of one piece with it under the last pair of branches. So for the 6 branches that go out of the lampstand, their calyxes and their branches shall be one piece with it, and the whole of it one hammered piece of pure gold. You shall make 7 lamps for it, and the lamps shall be set up so as to give light on the space in front of it. Its snuffers and trays shall be of pure gold. It and all the utensils shall be made from a talent of pure gold. And see that you make them according to the pattern for them, which is being shown to you on the mountain. Real quick, let me see if I can find just a little piece of information about something. I don't know if they have it in the study notes, but if not, I'll have to look it up for you guys later so I can talk to you about it. It seems they do not. So with that being said, I am going to be right back. I just got to use the restroom real quick, you guys, and then we're going to continue moving forward with the lampstand and then going all the way up to the tabernacle. Oh, we're back. Sorry, you guys, for having to take that break. Really happy to be back with you guys. Just every now and then you drink a little too much water when you start getting older. And next thing you know, you got to do what you got to do. But anyway, thank you, buddy. Thank you. Grace and peace to you as well. Appreciate you being here, Deanna. So we're going to be starting out the tabernacle. So this is Exodus 27. We're going to keep working our way through. We got a lot of ground to cover. So I appreciate you guys who stopped through and are willing to listen. So I'm going to take a little sip of my mixed berry drink here, and we're going to keep going. All right, Exodus 26. The tabernacle itself you shall make with 10 curtains of fine twisted linen and blue, purple, and crimson yarns. You shall make them with cherubim skillfully worked into them. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. All the curtains shall be of the same size. 5 curtains shall be joined to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall be joined to one another. You shall make loops of blue on the edge of the outermost curtain in the first set, and likewise you shall make loops on the edge of the outermost curtain in the second set. You shall make 50 loops on the one curtain, and you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the other curtain. That is in the second set. The loops shall be made opposite one another, and you shall make 50 clasps of gold and join the curtains to one another with the clasps. So, forgive me, that the tabernacle may be one whole. You shall also make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. You shall make 11 curtains. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the width of each curtain 4 cubits. The 11 curtains shall be of the same size. You shall join 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves, and the 6th curtain you shall double over at the front of the tent. You shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is outermost in the second set. You shall make 50 clasps of bronze, and put the clasp in the loops, and join the tent together so that it may be one whole. The part that remains of the curtains of the tent, and the half the curtain that remains, shall hang over the back of the tabernacle. The cubit on one side and the cubit on the other side of what remains is the length of the curtains of the tent, shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle on this side and that side to cover it. You shall make for the tent a covering of tanned ram skins and an outer covering of fine leather. I know that it's very possible. A lot of you guys coming through here as I'm reading through all this are probably like, what in the crap is this? Like all this stuff, why do we need to go through this? And I totally get where you're coming from, because this is an incredible amount of information that like means nothing to you probably personally as we read through the in-depth, like how does it, let's put this thing together and here's the measurements and so forth. But the goal for us here is, as you're passing through or whatever, to just read all the way through it the best that we can. The only thing I will ever skip over is because you won't remember them. They will be mostly unnecessary. Is for the most part just a lot of the genealogies. They do have purpose to the narrative, but for what it's worth, it's not going to really matter to you with the way that we're going through this. So yeah, some stuff, by the way, forgive my alfalfa thing I got going on here. I don't normally look in the camera when I see myself. I'm like, whoa, that's what's going on. But yeah, I'm going to be working through this, so I totally understand if a lot of this seems meaningless. So we're going through the framework now as he's continuing to work through the tabernacle of Exodus 26. You shall make upright frames of acacia wood for the tabernacle. 10 cubits shall be the length of a frame, and a cubit and a half the width of each frame. There shall be 2 pegs in each frame to fit the frames together. You shall make these for all the frames of the tabernacle. You shall make the frames for the tabernacle, 20 frames for the south side, and you shall make 40 bases of silver under the 20 frames. 2 bases under the first frame for its 2 pegs, and 2 bases under the next frame for its 2 pegs. And for the second side of the tabernacle, on the north side, 20 frames, and there are 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under the first frame, 2 bases under the next frame. And for the rear of the tabernacle westward, you shall make 6 frames. You shall make 2 for the corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They shall be separate beneath the joint at the top at the first ring. It shall be the same with both of them. They shall form the 2 corners. And so there shall be 8 frames, with their bases of silver, 16 bases, 2 bases under the first frame, and 2 bases under the next frame. You shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames of one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the frames of the side of the tabernacle at the rear westward. The middle bar, halfway up the frame, shall pass from one end to the other. You shall overlay the frames with gold, and shall make their rings of gold to hold the bars, and you shall overlay the bars with gold. Then you shall erect the tabernacle according to the plan for it that you were shown on the mountain. Next up, it's going to be describing the curtain. Hello, sir. I sure am. Good to see you. Good to see you here. I'm glad you was able to come through today. I appreciate you. Hope you're having a beautiful morning, just like everybody else is watching right now. I appreciate you guys coming and taking the time to stop through. So, you shall make a curtain of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen. It shall be made with a cherubim skillfully worked into it. You shall hang it on 4 pillars of acacia overlaid with gold, which have hooks of gold, and rest on 4 bases of silver. You shall hang the curtain under the clasps, and bring the ark of the covenant in there. With the curtain and the curtain shall separate for you the holy place from the most holy place. You shall put the cover of the ark of the covenant in the most holy place. Hello, Carletta. Thanks for stopping through. Appreciate you being here. Good morning, my friend. You shall put the cover on the ark of the covenant in the most holy place. You shall set the table outside the curtain and the lampstand on the south side of the tabernacle opposite the side, and you shall put on the table the north side. Put the table on the north side. You shall make a screen for the entrance of the tent of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen embroidered with needlework. You shall make for the screen 5 pillars of acacia, and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, and you shall cast 5 bases of bronze for them. Now we're going to be diving into the altar of burnt offerings. This is going to be Exodus 27. What's up, Sheila? Thank you for coming through, my friend. I appreciate you being here. By the way, I know that I don't sound enthusiastic. I normally, when I'm doing these kinds of streams, sound like extremely excessively monotone. I gotta stay focused. When I'm reading through like a lot, when I do these streams, it's an hour to 3 hours of just straight reading and also sharing thoughts. So from time to time, you can already see my little words get twisted up. So if I seem like really, it's because I'm just trying to focus in, because I can get like really quickly. So again, I'm not trying to seem like I'm not enthusiastic. I appreciate y'all so much. It's just like, I don't know about you guys, but it's not the easiest for me to stay like, trying to stay super focused. You shall make the altar. We're starting Exodus 27. You shall make the altar of acacia wood, 5 cubits long and 5 cubits wide. The altar shall be square. It shall be 3 cubits high. You shall make horns for it on its 4 corners. Its horns shall be of one piece with it, and you shall overlay it with bronze. You shall make pots for its ashes, and shovels, and basins, and forks, and fire pans. You shall make all its utensils of bronze and bronze. You shall also make for it a grating, a network of bronze. And on the net you shall make 4 bronze rings at its 4 corners. You shall set it under the ledge of the altar, so that the next shall extend halfway down the altar. You shall make poles on the altar, poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with bronze. The poles shall be put through the rings, so that the poles shall be on the sides of the altar when it is carried. You shall make it hollow with boards. They shall be made just as you were shown on the mountain. Now it says the court and its hangings. You shall make the court of the tabernacle. On the south side, the court shall have hangings of fine twisted linen, 100 cubits long for that side. Its 20 pillars and the 20 bases shall be of bronze, but the hooks of the pillars and their bands shall be of silver. Likewise, for its length on the north side, there shall be hangings 100 cubits long. Their pillars 20 and their bases 20 of bronze, but the hooks of the pillars and their bands shall be of silver. For the width of the court on the west side, there shall be 50 cubits of hangings, when the 10 pillars and 10 bases, with the 10 pillars and 10 bases. The width of the court on the front to the east shall be 50 cubits. There shall be 15 cubits of hangings on one side, with 3 pillars and 3 bases. There shall be 15 cubits of hangings on the other side, with 3 pillars and 3 bases. For the gate of the court there shall be a screen 20 cubits long, of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen, embroidered with the needlework. It shall have 4 pillars, and with them 4 bases. All the pillars around the court shall be banded with silver. Their hooks shall be of silver, and their bases of bronze. The length of the court shall be 100 cubits, the width 50, and the height 5 cubits, with hangings of fine twisted linen and bases of bronze. All the utensils of the tabernacle for every use, and all of its pegs and the court's pegs shall be of bronze. Try reading it side to side with the Quran in an English translation. Well, that wouldn't make an incredible amount of sense, because again, as we're going through the entirety of the Old Testament, we are going to be doing a reading through of the Quran later down the road here on the channel. Right now, we're working through, as a Christian, we're going through the Bible, and as well, I've been doing videos of the Bhagavad Gita, understanding Hindu beliefs and so forth. But I'm more than welcome to join those things in the future. Again, I identify as a Christian, but I also like to read through and teach religious histories of other different backgrounds and their scriptures, because a lot of times we just have no idea what other people actually believe and how they extract their beliefs. So I think that it really does a disservice to this very diverse world that we live in. So that's what I do here when I get the chance to do that. So just throwing it out there. But I appreciate you taking the time to comment. So you shall further command the Israelites to bring you pure oil of beaten olives for the light, so that a lamp may be set up to burn continually in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain that is before the covenant. Aaron and his sons shall tend it from evening to morning before the Lord. It shall be a perpetual ordinance to be observed throughout their generations by the Israelites. Now we're going on into Carletta. Thank you for being here, buddy. Now we're going on into Exodus 28, vestments for the priesthood. So I'm going to be getting even more specific here, as if it already wasn't specific enough. But again, this is an incredible amount of ceremonial and developmental making going on here that we see. So, then bring near to you your brother Aaron and his sons with him from among the Israelites to serve me as priests. Aaron and Aaron's sons, Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar, you shall make sacred vestments for the glorious adornment of your brother Aaron, and you shall speak to all who are skillful, whom I have endowed with skill, so that they may make Aaron's vestments to consecrate him for my priesthood. These are the vestments that they shall make: a breastpiece, an ephod, a robe, a checkered tunic, a turban, and a sash. When they make these sacred vestments for your brother Aaron and his sons to serve me as priests, they shall use gold, blue, purple, and crimson yarns and linen. Appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. Where and how do you get your understanding of the Bible? Chris Terry, interesting question. Kind of the exact same way that every other person does as well. You read, and then from your own personal, again, you're going to hate me saying this, but I'm just being straight up. Every single person ever who gets their understandings of the Bible is either reading it directly and extracting from their lens of their life experiences and perspectives that develop that way, or from some denomination or another's traditions. It's basically where everybody gets one of the two ways, or a mixture of both, where they get their understanding. But for the most part, as we sit here and read through, especially through a study Bible that goes through up-to-date archaeology, manuscript, textual criticism, scholarship and stuff, we just try to understand where these things come from, where they develop from, and how do we appreciate them from the cultures and places that they come from to make the communities that they did. So not here to argue and debate, just answering your question as direct as possible. And totally understand if you have your issues with that or disagree. I appreciate that. It's cool. Everybody's got their own way of looking at stuff, but everyone is interpreting and negotiating the text that they read. That is why we have so many different perspectives and traditions and outcomes. Thankfully, the chorus of core messages from like the teachings of Jesus himself is pretty consistent. Most people, I would say, unfortunately, including myself, very much fail on a regular basis to live out those things, especially the most beautiful parts. With that being said, though, what study Bible do you recommend? Not for everyone, but the one that I'm reading right now is the SBL Study Bible, so the Society of Biblical Literature, or the New Oxford Annotated Study Bible, but I would wait until the new edition comes out. You hear a lot of people who get deep into the weeds and scholarship say these ones because there are devotional ones like the NIV and or used to be NRSV, Cultural Studies Background Bibles. So they are more still good, like being honest as much as possible with the devotional scholarship. So when I say devotion, I know I'm getting sidetracked, but again, I can do that. It's my channel. Devotional means, as it sounds, that the study notes will carry scholarship, but as well have a bias behind them that come from a more theological place. So the difference between, I live not very far from a theological seminary. The people at my church are teachers there. If you go to a seminary, the teachings you're going to get are going to not just necessarily focus on archaeology and all this other stuff, textual criticism, but they're also going to put an incredible amount of focus for the most part on theology and going through church history and what did this guy teach and how did this guy understand this, what did this group, what did this council understand as they were reading through the text and extracting from how they apply it to themselves at that time. A lot of different stuff coming from a theological and a philosophical stance. Whereas if you went to do biblical education from a more secular seminary, something like that, not always a bad thing when you hear the word secular. But by the way, no, I do not play Clash of Clans. And Jeff, I'll answer you in just a second. But when you step on the outside of that, when you go to somewhere like Oxford or a lot of different places, or Duke Divinity, for instance, where a couple of my friends have went, Duke Divinity School at Duke University, you are going to still have teachers there who will teach you from a devotional stance, or even if you went to like UNC Chapel Hill here in North Carolina. But with that being said, then on the flip side, you will get things that are like, okay, these people are going to teach you biblical archaeology, textual criticism, and they're not necessarily going to become, they're going to have their biases, but they're not teaching from like this has to be this way, literally theological bias. So maybe that makes sense. But with that being said, that's no prophecy of Scripture as of any private interpretation. While you say that, the problem is that translations upon translations, word alterations and stuff, which again means absolutely nothing. Every tradition since the earliest church has been using private interpretation to tell you what it means. As church tradition has developed, increased, and then receded, you always got people negotiating with the text, regardless of what this verse or that verse says, up to and including how we process things, again, like the traditional tropes, slavery, woman's rights and abilities to be respected in society versus being property. These are actual cultural things. The people of these times that these things were oral traditions and then written down, practiced, and yet over time, we as people, not because the Bible said so, but because of things we saw extracted, and an experience from people around us said, oh, we're not going to treat women this way anymore. They're not property. We're not going to treat people of not just Israelite, but non-Israelite slaves this way anymore because that's bad. We're not going to kill people anymore because they're gay and slept with another man. So regardless of how you take this verse or that verse, at the end of the day, everything you're reading throughout the text is negotiated with from your own personal perspectives and lens. That's why I, living where I do in North Carolina, can go down the street and there's going to be 10 different churches who have different ways of looking at the same stuff, and they have different rules for what it looks like to be in their church, how you should dress when you come, or you're not going to be respected the same way, how you have to understand speaking in tongues, all this different stuff. At the end of the day, you could say, my denomination's right, that one's wrong, and then they'll say the same thing about you. If we can even get to a place like that, or the issues that we had throughout church history, it is because people through the church times have read the Bible, taken out the nuggets they like, left behind the things they don't, or at least said, this one doesn't matter anymore, but this one does. This one doesn't matter anymore, but this one does. So with all that being said, there's a lot more we can go down that road. But is God with every church? Good question. I would say, in essence, yes, God is present whenever, well, I would say personally that God is everywhere at all times. That's just my own personal belief, experience, that God is everywhere at all times. Does that mean, though, that the people who are acting as a vessel, like acting out as a person claiming to follow the teachings of God, are they doing that? Do they even know what that would look like? Are they doing it properly? Again, I read from Romans 12 a lot. I read from, as we're going through the Beatitudes right now, are all the churches that I've ever personally been to, visited, or heard from, treating the communities and the people and outsiders the way that Jesus directly taught them to do. Not all the time, not even necessarily most of the time, but are there lots of wonderful churches of all different denominations doing Christ-like things for themselves, for their communities and so forth? Absolutely. Again, the problem just boils down to we live in a very pick and choose world, and to deny that would just be being dishonest. So when it comes back to the texts, personally for me, I never have a problem telling anybody. Again, I know this has been really derailed. That's fine, but I do like to be very open and honest here. And try to be as straight to the point as possible. For me, as we go through this, I think it's very important that we read the whole Bible together. You hear it, you see it, or if you don't want to listen to me, go get you one of a reputable and at least respectable enough to the manuscript's translation. And there's a handful of them. They're really, really good. And then read through it, see what it says. But even then, you're going to have a lot of hangups because there's a lot of cultural issues, right, that you don't understand until you do get into the studies of it. So it takes a long time, but it's not impossible. So get you a good study Bible, go through it. Some of them have some heftier, Reformed biases, like the ESV, but I think it's still a decent enough study Bible, regardless of certain things, whatever I do or don't like, whatever. But ones like this, the SBL, the study Bible, the New Oxford Annotated, good stuff. But so God is with the Mormon, Catholic, Lutheran, Methodist, Scientology, and all that stuff. I mean, is he for everything they do? I would hope not. Is he present, though, within all people? Does he sustain all people's life and existence down to the person you see as your biggest enemy? Absolutely. So I know that you might just be asking questions. Maybe you're fishing for answers, looking for some type of argument. Doesn't really matter. I'm not going to keep being sidetracked with it, but I will say this. It would be impossible to believe in anything remotely Christian-esque without believing that God exists within everywhere and is sustaining all life. So whichever way you stand on that, whether you're Calvinist, Arminian, doesn't really matter to me. Either way, God exists within all people at all times, not necessarily meaning that the Spirit from a traditional stance is speaking through all people at all times in any way, shape, or form. So I guess it boils down to you'll know them by their fruits. If we want to cut it off at that, we'll know pretty much everything by its fruits. And by its fruits, we'll know what do they look like, pretty much what Jesus teaches it should look like to follow him. So that's just kind of where I'm leaving it now. I'm not going to keep answering those kinds of questions because I made it pretty much clear. For me, the scripture is very obviously looking in the rear view throughout the Old Testament of things. They're not writing as it's happening. They are looking back on things that have already been oral traditions and then pinning these things down. There's multiple sources. That's not really something up for debate. And for me personally, I tell people straight out of the gate, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds because it take too long, but no, do I see this as the perfectly preserved word of God, from his own mouth directly? No, these are written by people. There's no getting around that. these texts were written by people who were experiencing things and trying to understand how they came to be as communities, leading all the way up to the person of Jesus as he came. We see messiness. We see things we know are not real, like women being impure and unclean and all that stuff for different reasons or another from naturally healthy existing things. These are people trying to understand the world around them, while also you can still see the underlying inspiration going on between there. So take that as you wish. Feel about it how you would like to. And I know, again, you're just trying to, that you are asking good questions, and every person should be able to answer these questions, but they should be honest and sincere. And to sit there and say this particular group's got it right and this one don't doesn't really help, because, again, it's just going to go back to back and forth arguments about, well, my denomination's right. I like the King James Version. All the rest of them are crap, when it has its own translational issues from history and even the people who were behind the making of it. Like, you can go down those roads all you want. So at the end of the day, it's just unnecessary. Arguing, debating, trying to go ask and pinpoint. At the end of the day, just saying, what do you believe and why? Okay, we disagree. We agree. Where at? How not? Let's move forwards. So just throwing it out there. I'm going to continue reading, and now we are in Exodus 28. We're at the ephod. So, and by the way, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming through. What's up, Spiritual Weapon? Carlette, I appreciate you so very much. So, you guys are more than welcome to talk with each other in the comments too, as long as you're being respectful to each other. So and also no cussing and stuff like that. I don't welcome it. Not that any of you guys have. I don't welcome that stuff here. I don't welcome like inappropriate things in my comments. That's the only stuff I'm not okay with. So they shall make the ephod of gold or blue, purple and crimson yarns, and of the fine twisted linen skillfully worked. It shall have 2 shoulder pieces attached to its 2 edges, so that they may be joined together. The decorated band on it shall be of the same workmanship and materials of gold and blue and purple and crimson yarns, and of the fine twisted linen. You shall take 2 onyx stones and engrave them on the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on the one stone, and the names of the remaining 6 on the on the other stone in the order of their birth. As a gem cutter engraves signets, so you shall engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel. You shall mount them in settings of gold filigree. You shall set the 2 stones on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as the stones of remembrance. For the sons of Israel, and Aaron shall bear their names before the Lord on his 2 shoulders for remembrance. You shall make settings of gold filigree and 2 chains of pure gold, twisted like cords. And you shall attach, sorry, my leg's going to sleep there. You shall attach the corded chains to the settings. Now the breastplate. You shall make a breastplate of judgment in skilled work. You shall make it in the style of the ephod, of gold, of blue, of purple, and crimson yarns, and of fine twisted linen you shall make it. It shall be square and doubled, a span in length and a span in width. You shall set it 4 rows of stones, a row of carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald shall be the first row. In the second row, a turquoise, a sapphire, and a moonstone. In the third row, a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. The fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They shall be set in gold filigree. There shall be 12 stones with the names corresponding to the names of the sons of Israel. They shall be like signets, each engraved with its name, for the 12 tribes. You shall make for the breastplate chains of pure gold, twisted like cords, and you shall make for the breastplate 2 rings of gold, and put the 2 rings on the 2 edges of the breastpiece. You shall put the 2 cords of gold and the 2 rings at the edges of the breastpiece. The 2 ends of the 2 cords you shall attach to the 2 settings, and so attach it to the front shoulder pieces of the ephod. You shall make 2 rings of gold and put them at the 2 ends of the breastpiece, on its inside edge next to the ephod. You shall make 2 rings of gold and attach them in front to the lower part of the 2 shoulder pieces of the ephod. As it's joining above the decorated band of the ephod, the breastpiece shall be bound by its rings to the rings of the ephod with a blue cord, so that it may lie on the decorated band of the ephod, and so that the breastpiece shall not come loose from the ephod. So Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Israel in the breastpiece of judgment on his heart when he goes into the holy place, for a continual remembrance before the Lord. In the breastpiece of judgment you shall put the Urim and the Thummim, and they shall be on Aaron's heart when he goes in before the Lord. Thus Aaron shall bear the judgment of the Israelites on his heart before the Lord continually. Now we're going forward to the other priestly vestments. After this, by the way, is going to be the ordination of the priest, then the altar of incense in chapter 30. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and make my way. Yes, I'm going to try to make my way all the way to 32. I've got plenty of time today. Let me see. I'm just trying to remember because I'm almost positive that it is 40 chapters, just like, yeah, okay. So we are working at a pace here where there's a total of 40 chapters in Exodus. And since I got time, I guess I might as well try to get through as much as I can, as long as you guys are willing to let me to run with this and go together. So, because then after this, we're going to be moving on to the next book. So nothing wrong with that. With that being said, you shall make the robe of the ephod all of blue. It shall have an opening for the head and the edge, like the opening in the middle of it, with a woven binding around its edge, like the opening in a garment, so that it may not be torn. On its lower hem, you shall make pomegranates of blue, purple, and crimson yarns, all around the lower hem, with bells of gold between them all around. A golden bell and a pomegranate alternating all around the lower hem of the robe. By the way, this is not talking about a fruit here. Just letting you understand that. On its lower hem, Aaron shall wear it when he ministers, and its sound shall be heard when he goes into the holy place before the Lord, and when he comes out, so he may not die. You shall make a rosette of pure gold and engrave on it, like the engraving of a signet, holy to the Lord. You shall fasten it on the turban with a blue cord. It shall be on the front of the turban. It shall be on Aaron's forehead, and Aaron shall take on himself any guilt incurred in the holy offerings that the Israelites consecrate as the sacred donations. It shall always be on his forehead, in order that they may find favor before the Lord. You shall make a checkered tunic of fine linen, and you shall make a turban of fine linen, and you shall make a sash embroidered with needlework. For Aaron's sons, you shall make tunics and sashes and headdresses. You shall make them for their glorious adornment. You shall put them on your brother Aaron and on his sons with him, and shall anoint them and ordain them and consecrate them, so that they may serve me as priests. You shall make for them linen undergarments to cover their naked flesh. They shall reach from the hips to the thighs. They shall be worn by Aaron and his sons when they go into the tent of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister in the holy place, so that they do not bring guilt on themselves and die. This shall be a perpetual ordinance for him and for his descendants after him. Now we're finally creeping over into Exodus 29. I'm going to be talking about the ordination of priests now. I do not think actually I'm going to read too much more Exodus, because I know that in and of itself it's good to do little spurts. I always like to get through as much as I can. But I know for the sake of people getting bogged down too much, especially with this kind of stuff, it's good to read chunks and then make our way over to Matthew and continue through Matthew 7. I believe that's where we're at. I think we're at Matthew 7, either Matthew 8, either one. We're going to start working through that point pretty soon. But again, I'm Andrew Douglas Moon. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to come listen. I appreciate y'all so very much. Any discussion is fun and nice, going back and forth as long as you're respectful to each other and to me. Thank you. Everybody's welcome here. So with that being said, the ordination of priests, we're reading through Exodus 29. Now, this is what you shall do to them to consecrate them to serve me as priests. Take one young bull and 2 rams without blemish, and unleavened bread, unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers spread with oil. You shall make them of choice wheat flour. You shall put them in one basket and bring them in the basket, and bring the bull and the 2 rams. You shall bring Aaron and his sons to the entrance of the tent of the meeting and wash them with water. Then you shall take the vestments and put on Aaron the tunic and the robe of the ephod and the breastpiece, and gird him with the decorated band of the ephod. And you shall set the turban on his head and put the holy diadem on the turban. You shall take the anointing oil and pour it on his head and anoint him. Then you shall bring his sons and put tunics on them. And you shall gird them, and Aaron and his sons, with sashes and tie headdresses on them. And the priesthood shall be theirs by a perpetual ordinance. You shall then ordain Aaron and his sons. You shall bring the bull in front of the tent of meeting. Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the bull. And you shall slaughter the bull before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And shall take some of the blood of the bull and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger, and all the rest of the blood you shall pour out at the base of the altar. You shall take all the fat that covers the entrails and the appendage of the liver and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them, and turn them into smoke on the altar. But the flesh of the bull and its skin and its dung you shall burn with fire outside the camp. It is a purification offering. Smoky doo-doo. That's not something that any of us like, but it is happening here. Then you shall take one of the rams, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram, and you shall slaughter the ram, and shall take its blood and dash it against all sides of the altar. And then you shall cut the ram into its parts, and wash its entrails and its legs, and put them with its parts in its head. And then the rest of the ram into smoke on the altar. It is a burnt offering to the Lord. It is a pleasing odor, and offering by fire, or as well offering a gift. to the Lord. You shall take the other ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram, and you shall slaughter the ram and take some of its blood and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, and on the lobes of the right ears of his sons, and on the thumbs of their right hands, and on the big toes of the right feet, and dash the rest of the body against all sides of the altar. Then you shall take some of the blood that is on the altar and some of the anointing oil and sprinkle it on Aaron and his vestments and on his sons vestments with him. Then he and his vestments shall be holy, as well as his sons and his sons' vestments with him. You shall also take the fat of the ram, the fatty tail, the fat that covers the entrails and the appendage of the liver and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them, and the right thigh, for it is a ram of ordination. And 1 loaf of bread, 1 cake of bread made with oil, and 1 wafer out of the basket of unleavened bread that is before the Lord. You shall place all these on the palms of Aaron and on the palms of his sons, and raise them as an elevation offering before the Lord. Then you shall take them from their hands and turn them into the smoke on the altar on top of the burnt offering for a pleasing odor before the Lord. It is an offering of fire or a gift to the Lord. Howdy before I clock in. What's up, Jake? Super happy to see you, my friend. I appreciate the fact that you even got this time to stop by and say hey. So thank you. I appreciate every last one of you guys. If you ever come through, you talk, say hey, whether we agree or disagree. I'm always happy to see you guys again whenever you come back through, if I get to see you another time. Boy, am I a sucker for sparkling water. Don't know why, but I love this stuff. But I hope you have a wonderful day, my friend, as you get to work, and I hope everything goes great for you and everybody out there, too. I hope whatever you got going on today ends up being good to you, and I love you guys. Appreciate you. I don't say that some stupid, vapid social media crap. You may never see me again here, so whether or not you do, I appreciate y'all from one human to another. God bless y'all. So, you shall take the breast of the ram of Aaron's ordination and raise it as an elevation offering before the Lord, and it shall be your portion. You shall consecrate the breast that was raised as an elevation offering, and the thigh that was lifted up as an offering from the ram of ordination, from that which belonged to Aaron and his sons. These things shall be a perpetual ordinance for Aaron and his sons from the Israelites. For this is an offering, and it shall be an offering by the Israelites from their sacrifice of offerings, well-being their offering to the Lord. So would you say the NIV is not true to God's word? So just throwing this out there, again, not trying to get distracted too much because we got a lot more to read. But personally, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a lot of different translations. There are a lot of people who revere and respect the NIV. I like the NRSV, especially the updated edition. I like the NASB. The ESV is cool, but it definitely has some translational choice problems. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. As far as I know, the NIV is very well loved by a lot of people. I mean, some people have problems with it. I don't really remember what they are at this point because it's been quite a while since I've cared enough to mess with it. But at the end of the day, you know, if the Bible is the Bible, if it is as close as they can try to get to with the wording of the translations that we do have, the manuscripts that we do have, if you can read it, if you can understand it, that's good enough. If you can understand what it is saying to the best of your ability in the language that you speak, then that's got to be good enough to get you going somewhere to start studying. If you're going to spend time with it, that's what matters. So, the sacred vestments of Aaron shall be passed on to his sons after him. They shall be anointed in them and ordained in them. The son who is priest in his place shall wear them 7 days when he comes into the tent of meeting to minister in the holy place. You shall take the ram of ordination and boil its flesh in a holy place. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and bread that is in the basket at the entrance of the tent of meeting. They shall eat the food by which the atonement is made to ordain and consecrate them. But no one else shall eat of it because it is holy. If any of the flesh for the ordination or of the bread remains until the morning, then you shall burn the remainder with fire. It shall not be eaten because it is holy. Thus you shall do to Aaron and his sons just as I have commanded you. Through 7 days you shall ordain them. Also, every day you shall offer a bull as purification offering for atonement. Also, you shall offer a sin offering for the altar when you make atonement for it, and shall anoint it to consecrate it. 7 days you shall make an atonement for the altar and consecrate it, and that altar shall be the most holy. Whatever touches the altar shall become holy. Now, this is getting to daily offerings. Now, by the way, in case anybody's popping through, we're working through Exodus 29 right now. Now, this is what you shall offer on the altar. 2 lambs a year old, regularly each day. One lamb you shall offer in the morning, the other lamb you shall offer in the evening, and with the first lamb 1/10 of measure of choice flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of beaten oil. Not like a hen, like a chicken or anything like that. HIN of beaten oil, and 1/4 of hin of wine for a drink offering. And the other lamb you shall offer in the evening, and shall offer it with a grain offering and its drink offering, as in the morning for a pleasing odor, an offering by fire, or again, it always shows as well a gift to the Lord. It shall be a regular burnt offering throughout your generations at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord, where I will meet with you to speak with you there. I will meet with the Israelites there, and it shall be sanctified to by my glory. I will consecrate the tent of meeting and the altar, and Aaron and his sons also I will consecrate to serve me as priests. I will dwell among the Israelites, and I will be their God. And they shall know that I am the Lord their God, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, that I might dwell among them. I am the Lord their God. Now we are gear shifting over to Exodus 30, the altar of incense. And we're about to make our way into stuff that starts getting a little bit more on the messy and fun side. Right now, we've been going through like a blending of ceremonial things happening here. Ordination, consecration, the making of the tabernacle, very, very crucial stuff to the narrative going on from here forward. So very important stuff that we try to hold on to stuff. Just like I said earlier, try to maintain things like the bread of presence and stuff, because we're going to get to things down the road. This is going to come back up. All right. So Exodus 30. You shall make an altar on which to offer incense. You shall make it of acacia wood. It shall be 1 cubit long and 1 cubit wide. It shall be square and shall be 2 cubits high. Its horns shall be of one piece with it. You shall overlay it with pure gold, its top and its sides all around, and its horns, and you shall make for it a molding of gold all around. And you shall make 2 golden rings for it under its molding. On 2 opposite sides of it you shall make them, and they shall hold the poles for carrying it. You shall make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. You shall place it in front of the curtain that is above the ark of the covenant, in front of the cover that is over the covenant, where I will meet with you. Aaron shall offer fragrant incense on it. Every morning when he dresses the lamps, he shall offer it. And when Aaron sets up the lamps in the evening, he shall offer it a regular incense offering before the Lord throughout your generations. You shall not offer unholy incense on it, or a burnt offering, or a grain offering, and you shall not pour a drink offering on it. Once a year, Aaron shall perform the rite of atonement on its horns. Throughout your generations, he shall perform the atonement for it once a year with the blood of the atoning purification offering. It is most holy to the Lord. The half shekel for the sanctuary. The Lord spoke to Moses, when you take a census of the Israelites to register them at the registration, all of them shall give a ransom for their lives to the Lord, so that no plague may come upon them for being registered. This is what each one who is registered shall give. Half a shekel according to the shekel of the sanctuary. The shekel is 20 gerahs. I know a lot of this stuff's not going to necessarily make a lot of sense to you guys as far as currency goes, but let's keep going. Half a shekel as an offering to the Lord. Each one who is registered for 20 years old and up, each one who is registered from 20 years old and up shall give the Lord's offering. The rich shall give more, and the poor shall not. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than the half shekel. When you bring this offering to the Lord to make atonement for your lives, you shall take the atonement money from the Israelites and shall designate it for the service of the tent of meeting. Before the Lord, it will be a reminder to the Israelites of the ransom given for your lives. By the way, just throwing this out there, I don't talk this like enunciated normally. I know it might sound a little weird at times. The meeting. I just do this for the sake of it coming through while we read together. So forgive me if it sounds a little weird or dorky. The Lord spoke to Moses, you shall make a bronze basin with a bronze stand for a washing. You shall put it between the tent of meeting and the altar, and you shall put water in with the water, or as well with it. Sorry about that. Lost myself. How did that possibly happen? There are. Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and their feet when they go into the tent of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister, to make an offering by fire or a gift to the Lord. They shall wash with the water so that they may not die. They shall wash their hands and their feet so that they may not die. This shall be a perpetual ordinance for them, for him and for his descendants throughout their generations. The Lord spoke to Moses, take the finest spices of liquid myrrh, 500 shekels, and of sweet-smelling cinnamon, half as much, and that is 250 and 250 of aromatic cane, and 500 of acacia. depending on how you pronounce it, but I say cassia, measured by the sanctuary shekel, and a hin of olive oil. And you shall make of these a sacred anointing, oil blended as by the perfumer. It shall be a holy anointing oil. With it you shall anoint the tent of meeting, and the ark of the covenant, and the table and all its utensils, and the lampstand and its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the basin with its stand. You shall consecrate them so that they may be most holy. Whatever touches them will become holy. You shall anoint Aaron and his sons and consecrate them to serve me as priests. You shall say to the Israelites, this shall be my holy anointing oil throughout your generations. It shall not be used in any ordinary anointing of the body, and you shall make no other like it in composition. It is holy, and it shall be holy to you. Whoever blends any like it, or whoever puts any of it on an unqualified person, shall be cut off from the people. The Lord said to Moses, take sweet spices, stacte and onycha, and galbanum, sweet spices with pure frankincense, an equal part of each, and make an incense blended as by the perfumer, seasoned with salt, pure and holy. And you shall beat some of it into powder, and put part of it from the covenant in the tent of meeting, where I shall meet with you. It shall be most holy for you. When you make incense according to its composition, you shall not make it for yourselves. It shall be regarded by you as holy to the Lord. Whoever makes any like it to use as a perfume shall be cut off from the people. So the last nuggets here that I'm going to go through when it comes to Exodus, I'm going to read 31 and I'm going to read 32 because I might go all the way to 34, but it is an incredible amount of stuff we're going to finish when I got so much more I still intend to read. We're already at 1 hour and 15 here. I don't want to hold you guys up forever. Anybody who's been kind enough to come through and spend time together, I know you guys are busy people. So let's go forward now. Exodus 31. The Lord spoke to Moses, see, I have called by my name Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. I have filled him with the divine spirit, with ability, intelligence, and knowledge, and every kind of skill, to devise artistic designs, to work in gold, silver, bronze, and cutting stones for setting, and in carving wood, to work in every kind of craft. Moreover, I have appointed with him Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, and the tribe of Dan, and I have given skill to all the skillful, so that they may make all that I have commanded you, the tent of meeting and the ark of the covenant, and the cover that is on it, and all the furnishings of the tent, and the table and its utensils, and the pure lampstand with all its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering with all its utensils, and the basin with its stand. And the finely worked vestments, the holy vestments for the priest, Aaron, and the vestments of his son, for their service as priests, and the anointing oil and the fragrant incense for the holy place, they shall do just as I have commanded you. The Sabbath law here is the title for this next part. The Lord said to Moses, you yourself are to speak to the Israelites. You shall surely keep my Sabbaths, for this is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, given in order that you may know that I, the Lord, sanctify you. You shall keep the Sabbath because it is holy for you. Everyone who profanes it shall be put to death. Whoever does any work on it shall be cut off from among the people. 6 days it shall be done. But the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. Therefore, the Israelites shall keep the Sabbath, observing the Sabbath throughout their generations as a perpetual covenant. It is a sign forever between me and the Israelites. That is, in the 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day he rested and was refreshed. Once again, I'm not going to make too much of a talk or a fuss or commentary about this. I want you to keep in mind what we just read here. The wording, as it shows in most translations coming from the manuscripts here, is the idea that this is a sign put between them two forever to represent this thing. We see things, for instance, like those who work on the Sabbath day shall be put to death. Then he uses wording here representing some hyperbolic, but at the same time, not seemingly so much hyperbolic of what is to happen to people who break this. Do you make candles for a living? Not professionally, no. Me and my wife haven't made candles in a very long time. Just throwing this out there. I work for a place that provides all the stuff that people need to make candles, basically. It's for candle makers. Basically, we provide everything they would possibly use and make everything ourselves, for the most part. So, just throwing it out there, but I appreciate you for asking. When the people saw that Moses delayed, this is the golden path part. When God finished speaking with Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave him the 2 tablets of the covenant, tablets of stone written with the finger of God. Now we're getting into Exodus 32. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered around Aaron and said to him, "Come, make gods for us. Who shall go before us? As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him." Aaron said to them, "Take off the gold rings that are on your ears and of your wives, your sons and your daughters, and bring them to me." So all the people took off the gold rings from their ears and brought them to Aaron. He took these from him, formed them in a mold, and cast an image of a calf and said, "These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." And Aaron saw this, and when Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made a proclamation and said, "Tomorrow shall be a festival to the Lord." They rose early the next day and offered burnt offerings and brought sacrifices of well-being. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to revel. The Lord said to Moses, "Go down at once. Your people, whom you brought up out of the land of Egypt, have acted perversely. They have been quick to turn aside from the way that I commanded them. They have cast for themselves an image of a calf and have worshipped it and sacrificed to it and said, 'These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt.' The Lord said to Moses, 'I have seen this people how stiff-necked they are. Now let me alone so that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, and of you I will make a great nation.' But Moses implored the Lord his God and said, 'O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say it was with evil intent that he brought them out of there to kill them in the mountains and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your fierce wrath, change your mind, and do not bring disaster on your people. Remember Abraham and Isaac and Israel, or Jacob. Israel is the terminology here. No way, do you sell paraffin or wood wicks? I actually need some. So what I would tell you to do, just real quick, because I'm about to make an important point. Actually, I'll answer it in just a second. I'm going to finish this. Remember Abraham. So I will swore to them by your own self, how you swore to them by your own self, saying, "I will multiply your descendants like the stars of heaven and all this land, and I promised I will give to your descendants, and they shall inherit it forever." And the Lord changed his mind about the disaster that he planned to bring on his people. Okay, we're going to talk about that. I don't know who's going to like what I got to say or not. It doesn't really matter. We're going to talk about it, and you don't have to stick around. But first, my buddy here, by the way, what should I call you? I see 2WTYKE. I don't know if Tyke is your name, but I want to be able to address you properly like most people and give respect to anybody out there and hopefully pronounce your name properly. Mitch is fine. Okay, Mitch. So paraffin wax and so much more, and also different types of wicks. We have every type of wick you can get your hands on for the most part. So I would go to candlescience.com. We ship to anywhere, basically. So I don't know where you live, but go to Candle Science, all one word. Well, yeah, on a website anyways, but it's all one word, candlescience.com. So any waxes, wicks in bulk or little amounts. I do not get paid to talk about this. I just work for the company. Here in Michigan, it would literally be my branch that would ship to you. But yeah, if you ever need any types of jars, waxes, wicks, and then we have like hundreds of fragrances that we make that either can be blended together or come pre-blended for you to make candles with. So that's what the company I work for does. I love them. Awesome company. Just throwing it out there. If you ever want to make candles, we even have candle maker starter kits with full instructions, even on our website, of how to go about doing that, and a YouTube apparently that tells you everything you need to know. So I don't get paid to say any of this stuff. I just love it. If you love what you do, you support your company, I absolutely check it out. And you'll say, awesome. I appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, I do. I love the company I work for. They're fantastic people. And again, at the end of the day, I also love candles. As you know, this started off as a fragrance channel. I love perfumery. So anything that smells good, I'm a big fan of. Except for me right now, because I'm still sweaty from the gym and I'm nasty. I didn't take a shower yesterday. Whoops. But anyway, then Moses turned and went down from the mountain. I'm going to take a pause here now and comment on what we just read. So these are not my words. These are from here. I'm always talking about how one of the worst things that started throughout a long-standing now tradition that is not how, as far as we can actually see through written text, archaeology, commentaries, early on, especially in Jewish culture or Israelite culture, and in most Mesopotamian and other different regional cultures throughout the world, mythos, tropes and stuff, narratives, were very loose existing things for people markers, identity makers. There's like these nuggets of truths woven into these grandiose tales that then make the people, right? They make the people. For when their children and their children's children are asking, how did we get here? Who are we? So, as I keep pointing out how the things that we read, like through Genesis, through Exodus, and so forth, these are not like somebody right then and there wrote this stuff down perfectly as it happened, like there was some guy always sitting to the side, like capturing every moment. Instead, down the road, after these things happen, so again, just like in Genesis, how there is a mentioning, right, of just a random passing statement towards the end of Genesis, how there was not yet a king in the land of Israel. So this is something that didn't happen until way after Judges and so much more throughout the Hebrew text. So hundreds and hundreds of years later, after what was being talked about. But yet, the writer already knew about these things, and not in some grandiose prophetic way, but like, hey, just letting you guys who are reading this, who are way later, we already know what's going on here. We already know what's came and went. They're writing down, hey, to you guys, you other Israelite people and you Judaic people who are reading this stuff, just remember, like there wasn't a king yet there. So it wouldn't have been hard for them to digest. Early church, later on tradition, where things became a lot more, no, everything's got, screw the narrative, screw the genre, screw the mythos. And myth, by the way, doesn't mean what we think of it as today, but screw all the stuff, the literary devices that was used here. It's got to be perfectly literal, perfect. Everything happened exactly as it's presented. And when we started ingraining that, because of very controlling and dominating reasons, when we can see these things developing, literally as, by the way, the books are being compiled and overall being selected and passed around and used amongst communities, which doesn't really lean too much credence towards perfection. But as these things are being compiled and pieced together and written out, people are asking questions, oral translations and tellings, and they're written to paper. And we have these things, again, making the peoples. We start having these arguments, debates, discussions, and then councils saying, okay, here's how we're going to look at it now going forward. If you disagree, screw you. Whereas, even in Jesus' time, we know the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and different groups were already on different stances of things like the coming Messiah. What's that all about? The world as it is right now, the world like the apocalypses and stuff like that. What's that look like? These were Israelite or Jewish people who even then were discussing how does things look? Oh, we're on different opposing sides. At the end of the day, though, it's okay because we're still part of the same ultimate team, technically. We just look at things different. We don't agree. They might not have went into places and done things together, necessarily speaking, but they weren't like, you guys over there, you guys are complete pieces of garbage. It was a developed concept that we get down the road. But when we read stuff like this, it's not that hard if you don't shut your brain off and try to bring in this excessive amounts of biases, which I know you're going to accuse me of having the same thing. That's fine. I got biases. But if you don't just shut your brain off to go based off of what some pastor or some person told you, you have to see this as, and you just go, kind of strange, isn't it? On the one hand, God never changes his mind. One writing from a human hand says. On the flip side, in most translations, as it is written textually and translated over, the Lord changed his mind about the disaster he planned to bring to his people. And so the Lord himself didn't go, no, I'm not going to do that. Here's how we're going to handle this. This literally represents, as we see a handful of other times, Moses going, hey, God, don't do that thing. God, please don't do that thing. Man, have your interpretation. Sure, we'll get to that in a second, the best I can, because we are about to actually flip over in that direction. But before we do, I just want to point this out, that the texts we have here came from developing oral traditions of people who have nuggets of truth mixed in with also borrowing tropes to understand who they are and where they came from. Does that mean these things are pointless? Absolutely not. Does that mean that God wasn't speaking through these people in some capacity and inspiring these people? Obviously, we're not going down that road, but to the extreme extent of which we have taken things, it has caused so many issues of inconsistency. So everything's perfect, yet here's all the thousands of different people disagreeing on how we understand it. And you guys are wrong, you're going to hell. And the other people are like, no, you guys are wrong, and you're going to hell, blah, blah, blah. When you have all this division in these ways, instead of just being able to say, hey, wait a minute, guys, these things aren't perfect here. We know they're not. That's why we keep translating them and altering little bits of things and stuff and seeing things different ways and arguing about stuff. You can have a different kind of nuanced faith and still cherish who Jesus was, the things that we can understand, or at least try to understand that he taught and how we should treat people, instead of sitting around going, no, you see, but it has to be this way. When we can see things are directly using literary devices. So do I believe that God was speaking to Moses vocally right now? And Moses was like, no, God, I don't like the way you're doing things. Why don't we do it this way? Or when when God was being negotiated with about how many people, or if there was this many people in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah, would you would you then spare them? And he's like, yeah, okay, sure. So when we see this kind of stuff, we see people using narratives and story markers here to discuss their experiences or looking back on how they want to teach their people things would have went to explain how did things happen. So, like I said, I get if you're more literalist and fundamentalist and you have a problem with me saying, by the way, thank you so much, my buddy Mitch. You didn't have to do that. Seriously, I don't know how to do this. Let me give a little bink. Whoopsie, sorry. I know I get very long with it. Thank you, seriously. Like, nobody's ever got to send me no money or nothing because, again, in general, other than when people do like that, I don't get paid for this. I do this because I really love this and it means something to me. I love connecting with you guys. Even when I share my thoughts, I'm no genius or nothing like that. I'm just sharing my thoughts. But I'm trying to help because as somebody who spent a lot of time around a lot of different churches and I've seen every different place think everybody else is wrong. And then we go out into the world at large and say, screw the stuff Jesus taught that we should be doing. Let's just go like make enemies out of everybody. I am not ever going to say we should even remotely approve of everything everybody's doing. But another problem is as we get back into Romans, we're going to see like, oh, wow, we're not really acting like the gospel say we should be, huh? All right. So with that being said, just throwing it out there, it's kind of like half the time I've had people come through the comments when I do these Bible studies and I'm reading the Bible and they just make an assumption because I got these tattoos that I must have been to prison or something like that, which I haven't. But people have assumptions based off of cultural experiences. Kind of like if I went to Japan, if I went out to rural Japan, there's going to be a lot of people who will look at my tattoos and they'll have like fear or discomfort based off of cultural understandings that have changed over time. Whereas like hundreds and hundreds of years ago, somebody like me might have been more respected. In the same place, all around the world of all times, people's cultures change and shift based off of, for whatever reason, the dominant perspectives at the time. Again, just like here in the Bible, we see women being seen as property who don't have their own voice to share. And we know that's not right. So we know, if you believe in actual God, that a God who's over all things is not cool with that. We know that we see direct slavery and not just indentured servitude. We see like actual slavery, where it's specifically even stated in one particular passage. You're Israelite, you show them this way, you treat them this way. But if they're not Israelites and you're your slave, do whatever. Do as you wish to some extent or another. Again, I'm being goofy there, but it's like, there is a difference between how non-Israelite slaves or indentured servitudes, Israelite slaves, indentured servitudes, and non-Israelite slaves. We know now, not because the Bible said so, but because of thinking about Jesus, thinking about his teachings, and then different cultural things as well. And more importantly, experiencing cultural changes, people, new environments. We know now we shouldn't own anybody as slaves. It doesn't matter what color they are, what they look like, or where they come from. We shouldn't own people as slaves. People should work, earn, and get paid a fair wage, which even still doesn't really happen, but we're developing. For better or for worse, society changes and develops. And these texts and every other text that we have didn't just make us better. There's influences that did make certain things, people who thought about them and reflected on them and said, you know what, we should do better. But even when we read through here, you are seeing messy stuff going on here. And that's why when you try to say, no, this is the perfectly preserved, blah, 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 blah. Now you got to do apologetics to answer a lot of hard questions. And you got to tap dance around a bunch of stuff instead of going, oh, no, there's problems here. And that's okay, because I don't have to just go along with everything I'm seeing here. I can see the good things that lead to better and better societies and see what has Jesus got to say versus I can see all these people screwing up. Real quick, I know I've been going for a while here. I'm about to get back to it, I promise. And we're going to finish the golden calf story. But like I said, instead of me trying to say, like with this story here, that God wanted to just destroy them all, and Moses was like, no, God, don't do that. And God changed his mind, which it says, it's not my opinion, it's the Bible, it's what it says in this text in Exodus 32. Instead of saying, yeah, that's what happened, I don't have to do that because I know that sounds ridiculous. Just like, for instance, God hardening Pharaoh's heart in the story as we just went through. Again, I'm sharing my opinions. If you don't like it, I promise you don't have to stay, but you're not going to change my mind on this one. I'm just letting it be known. But just throwing it out there, when God, it shows Pharaoh hardening his own heart, then it shows God hardening Pharaoh's heart. What's up with that, as Seinfeld would say? God hardens Pharaoh's heart. Oh, wait a minute, but we know what's up with that because he specifically says at one point in particular, a few times actually, but very specifically at one point, so that the Israelites and then also the Egyptians may see his power. So what that's saying through the literary devices here is technically Pharaoh would have been like, okay, you guys, just go. Go, please. I don't want no more trouble. God's like, I'm going to give you trouble. I'm going to make you cause your people trouble because I need everybody to see what I'm capable of. For me, I see a story usage going on here to explain something. Again, as the people are looking back and telling stories, how did we get here? For somebody who's got to like make apologetics for this, they're like, well, I don't know. Is that really, well, God's the ultimate standard for good. So if God did it, I don't get to say that's not good. But at the same time, my heart says it doesn't sound very good that God's like purposely doing something so then the firstborn's got to die. The Egyptian people just to make a point. But that point didn't work because what happened next, we see it right here. The point didn't do anything because as far as we know historically, after this represents in this story, the Israelites leaving Egypt, Shaduki, right afterwards, the Egyptians just went on about their business. Like it never happened. On the flip side, what else you got, homeboy? The Israelite people, they go straight back to screwing up. So it turns out, in the story, God hardened Pharaoh's heart so that Pharaoh just didn't let them go, which it says, it makes it look like he would have done if God in the story didn't do it. I know I'm being very sarcastic here, but I'm trying to make a point. It's not me making up the story. I'm telling you the story so that we can look at this and go, how should we understand this historically versus how tradition has very long developed stuff that we keep negotiating away anyway. So I'm trying to tell you that when we see stuff like these situations where, God hardens the hearts of Pharaoh, and then it's because he's trying to flex, but then the Egyptians just move on about their business like it never even happened, so it didn't even work. Also, the Israelite people moved on like it never happened, so it didn't even work. And then they just keep screwing up. So like God does these punishments to flex, and then lo and behold, they go right back to screwing up anyway. Instead, for me, I see this. Oh, by the way, I appreciate you, Johnny Savage, for listening. Again, I know the stuff I'm saying might be frustrating for a lot of people, and that's okay. I'm not saying that I'm perfectly right. You got to believe me. I'm giving you my thoughts. You can take them. You can think about them. Do you agree that evil is in God's scripture? It's proven that there were narrations created to manipulate groups of people rather than to lead them. So do I believe that there's evil things going on here? Absolutely. It's kind of like, just real quick, again, I know that I've very much derailed and I've been talking for a while and I'm probably sure it's driving people crazy, but I just want to throw this out there. Simple philosophy versus apologetics. I see people arguing about, for instance, the Genesis narrative where God creates, right? But he puts the tree of chaos and order, Tov and Ra, the knowledge of good and evil, which means I see people say God made the knowledge of good and evil, the tree, but he didn't make good and evil. I've also seen people say God made the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but he didn't create moral evil because that was people's job. They disobeyed, right? So instead of this story narrative where we make apologetics for what God didn't do wrong, people did it. And yet God made the people knowing what they were going to do. Instead of a more traditional viewpoint that God makes the people knowing they're going to do bad for a reason. Because throughout early Jewish tradition, a lot of development, the Satan as an adversary who isn't out of God's control or purview, because it wouldn't make any sense that God's in control of everything. But there's a Satan who can do things that God don't want him to do. And instead of seeing it that way, that God creates, but he's got this overarching narrative to make us humans with free will. And we have been born with the inclination to do good or to do bad for the reason of our own personal growth, to develop, right? There is excessive amounts of temptation, but we are able, just like me with addiction, right? 7 years sober after 11 years of serious addiction. I was able with my free will to override my animal nature for spiritual nature and overcome these things. And I say it as what I do say it as, it's by the grace of God because he made me with the ability to do this. But it was with my own free will that I said, I'm going to stop doing these drugs and doing this drinking. I'm changing my life. So I was given these temptations in this world, given these things to fight against, but I also was gifted the free will and the grace to be able to overcome those things. So it's with his help, but with my free will, I did these things. So looking at it this way, instead of trying to go, oh, God made things, but he didn't want X to happen, but he's also the maker of everything and the creator of everything, which becomes tongue-twisted apologetics. We just go, God made things with both options. People, knowingly he knew, were going to be tempted, and they chose these options. But these are stories to represent and present to us, here's the struggles of growing up, of parenthood and childhood and growing up. Here's the struggles of being a human between flesh and spirit. There's so much depth and poetry and beauty to the reasons why these things were written the way they were. And we make it really muddy and messy when we start doing excessive explanatory apologetics to say, this isn't what it looks like. This isn't what it looks like. I promise you guys, it's not confusing, but it's not what it looks like. So just want to throw that out there. Flip your hands around much, bro? I do. I talk with my hands. And if you got a problem with that green thumb, you don't got to stick around. If you're just being silly, you're welcome to be here. But with that being said, I move my hands around a lot. It's just what I do. It's actually, ironically and weirdly, how it helps me focus. I don't know why, but it just does. So anyways, with that being said, I want to crank it up to 1,000 now because you said that. I'm just kidding. I'm not actually going to do that. But back to the original point. Did you make $2 typing that comment? You're so funny. I appreciate you, buddy. But anyway, but I'm also totally fine with a good ball busting here and there. So I'm just throwing it out there. This idea, right, like not God making the tree of knowledge of good and evil was historically seen so differently because he did make it. He made that tree and then told them what not to do. And yet, where did the serpent come from magically? So like I said, at the end of the day, it helps structure, thought, and form. Thank you. So, like I said, I do this a lot. I appreciate you, Brandon. Awesome, everybody. Thank you for coming through. But yeah, this is just what I do. So it does. It helps me focus and jump like that. It just does. But yeah, so like I said, I'm trying to just have this time together so that you guys can see. We have this long-standing tradition of people going, this is perfect. Don't ask questions. You can ask questions, but only ask the right questions. Otherwise, we're going to have excuses for things that don't make any sense. And if you don't like that, you're out. So I know that's not how everybody operates. Because like I said, the church that I go to, they would not stand on. They are the teacher there, the pastor, and all the guys on staff work at a local theological seminary. And I can assure you, it's a Baptist seminary, and they would not be on board with the way that I'm presenting things. And yet, even still, some of them had to agree that last week we had a visiting Baptist pastor from another place who came through, took a psalm, and then completely ripped it out of its actual context, like its actual proven, like understandable context, interjected his own interpretation, using language to discredit what everybody else sees it as, and explained this thing to make a point. He took a psalm, completely ripped it out of its context, made it his own to do an hour-long sermon about his own way of looking at things, but taught it as if this is a fact. This is what happens all the time. People see what they want to see. End of story. Do you do study? You're a genuine individual. I would like to take notes with you. Yes, technically. If you're talking about, so like right now, like I've been on a long tangent now, but I am about to start reading again. I just wanted to make this very serious point about how we interpret things and understand things, and then how we make things messy. So genre and usage and mythos is very important to understand as we are going to dive into stuff. And I know a lot of people have asked me a simple question like, well, why do you call yourself a Christian if you don't think it's perfect as it is? And I'm like, well, you know what? A lot of people might not say that I am. And then there's other people who say I'm too conservative. It really depends on the stances that we're talking about. But for me personally, I'm reading the Bible. I see it. I also try to understand the history, where things came from, how things developed. Why are we here? How did these people develop throughout time into the places in which they did? What did they use these writings for? And what did it mean to the people as they would read these things? There's a lot of questions to be asked. And one thing I can tell you for sure is you're not going to be able to pick up something like the Bible or any religious text, but especially the density and depth of the Bible, and read it all in a year, in a couple of days. You're not going to be able to do that and then say, I got it. I know what's going on here. It's perfect. I get it. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and you have to work through it to even start to kind of grasp it. That sounds crazy and messy, but this is a crazy, messy thing going on here. If we try to act like it's not, we're doing a disservice to anybody who comes along down the road and reads it themselves and has questions, and nobody wants to answer. It always comes down to the wrong questions instead of just saying, let's ask every question together and see if we can grow. So, really meditate on the verses, fully understanding what they are in their true context. God bless. And I hope you have a great day too, Johnny. I appreciate you for stopping through here. I really do. I appreciate all of you guys for listening to me babble. So I am going to finish this up. Unfortunately, I talked for a long time, so I got other stuff I got to run through now. So I'm going to finish this bad boy up. We're past the golden calf story, or like I said, this story just presented God changing his mind because Moses had to implore God because he was like, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, blah, blah, blah. You know, you don't want the Egyptians to think. So in reality, we know that actual God who knows all things, right? If we think of it that way, he wouldn't be confused, like wouldn't have to be changing his mind like this, nor does it present it like he's purposely testing Moses. I've heard that apologetic before. Like he was purposely testing Moses. You don't understand. And see what Moses would say. We don't see that. It's not how it's represented or the narrative. We just see how the peoples, looking back on this story as it was told and written, how they understood it. So anyways, I've talked for a long time. I'm going to get back to it now. I'm sorry, you guys. Then Moses turned and went down from the mountain, carrying the 2 tablets of the covenant in his hand, tablets that were written on both sides, written on the front and on the back. The tablets were the work of God, and the writing was the writing of God, engraved upon the tablets. When Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, he said to Moses, "There is a noise of war in the camp." But he said, "It is not the sound made by victors or the sound made by losers. It is the sound of singing that I hear." As soon as he came near the camp and saw the calf and the dancing, Moses' anger burned hot, and he threw the tablets from his hands and broke them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf that they had made and burned it in the fire and ground it to the powder, scattered it on the water, and made the Israelites drink it. Boy, he went hard. Moses said to Aaron, "What did this people do to you that you have brought to great sin upon them?" And Aaron said, "Do not let the anger of my Lord burn hot. You know that the people, that they are wicked. They said to me, 'Make gods for us. Who shall go before us?' As for this Moses, the man who brought us out of Egypt, we do not know what's become of him. So I said to them, 'Whoever has gold, take it off,' so that they give it to me. And I threw it into the fire, and out came this calf." By the way, he's obviously not wording that honestly, because he put it in a mold, it said. So it came out as a calf, and he's just like shooting the breeze here. When Moses saw that the people were out of control, for Aaron had lost control of them, promoting derision among their enemies, Moses stood in the gate of the camp and said, "Who is on the Lord's side? Come to me." And all the sons of Levi gathered around him. He said to them, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, put your sword on your side, each of you, go back and forth from the gate throughout the camp. Each of you kill your brother, your friend, and your neighbor." The sons of Levi did as Moses commanded, and about 3,000 of the people fell on that day. Again, we're seeing a narrative story here of something horrible happening, and we're like, did God really tell him to do this? Or would he really like this? Because why I would say that is, you could try to do an apologetic and be like, well, but you see, God had a point to prove. And I would say, did it work? Because immediately after this senseless killing that really didn't seem to do any good, right after, they keep screwing up, and they keep all the way through First and Second Samuel, Kings, Chronicles. We see this story being rehashed. So like I said, I know at times I'll be a little silly and sound sarcastic when I'm talking about this, but we have to understand there's a lot going on here, a lot that we got to swallow, and we have to comprehend this is writings from the people trying to grasp what they think is happening, what they're experiencing happening, but not at the moment, but looking back. As stories are told by campfires, by campfires, by campfires. How did we get here, Mom? How did we get here, Grandma and Dad? So we are seeing a lot of things that have developed so that people can understand who are we and where do we come from. And whether it's the Native Americans and all through over the world, people have been doing this forever. We've always been telling stories to understand where we are, where we come from, and why we are the people that we are. And also looking around and seeing people who are different from us. Why are they like this? So we hear about this a lot when people were doing the conquest in the ancient days, traveling around from place to place, like searching out the new worlds and stuff like that. We see like discoveries of new peoples you've never heard of or seen before. And now we got to explain, who are those people? They're not like me. Who are they? So, by the way, if my microphone starts crackling at any point, please let me know, because I know it has done that in the past. Anyway, who is on the, when Moses saw the camp were out of control, so who is on the Lord's side? Come to me. So anyways, kill your brother, your friend, and your neighbor. The sons of Levi did as Moses commanded, and about 3,000 of the people fell that day. It's horrible, don't you think? Moses said, "Today you have been ordained for the service of the Lord, each one at the cost of a son or of a brother, and so have brought blessing on yourselves this day." On the next day, Moses said to the people, "You have sinned a great sin, but now I will go up to the Lord. Perhaps I can make atonement for your sin." So Moses returned to the Lord and said, "Alas, this people have sinned a great sin. They have made for themselves gods of gold. But now, if you will only forgive their sin, but if not, please blot me out of the book that you have written." What's the point of the forgiveness if they're already dead? It's just story stuff we're seeing going on here, people. But the Lord said to Moses, "Whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book." You see, but now go, lead the people to the place about which I have spoken to you. See, my angel shall go in front of you. Again, this is the angel of the Lord possessing the name. Nevertheless, when the day of punishment comes, I will punish them for their sin. Then the Lord sent a plague on the people because they made the calf, the one that Aaron had made. This is the last I'm going to be reading today of Exodus. So we have a couple chapters left of Exodus, and then we're going to be done. Next is going to be talking about the command to leave Sinai and the creation of the new stones, the new tablets. Now we're going to shift over. We still got a little time. We got quite a bit of time, and we're going to go through. Let me see where we're at right quick. So 11, 17. I'll be right back, you guys. I'm going to take a small break, and then I'm going to read a psalm or two, and then from there we're going to get back into Matthew. So I'll be right back, you guys. So I can have to take a break. All right, you guys. Super sorry for the long wait. Sometimes you just really got to go to the old restroom when you're getting older. So let me see what time it is so I can see what I'm working with. 11:20. All right, not so bad. All right, diving into, I know we read a lot from going through the study Bible through Exodus. Now we're going through Psalms 37. So we're reading, do not fret. We're reading exhortation for patience and trust. Psalm 37, my friends. Do not fret because of the wicked. Do not be envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good. Live in the land and enjoy security. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him, and he will act. He will make your vindication shine like the light, and the justice of your cause like the noonday. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret over those who prosper in their way, over those who carry out evil practices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret. It leads only to evil, for the wicked shall be cut off. But those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land. Yet a little while, and the wicked will be no more. Though you look diligently for their place, they will not be there. But the meek shall inherit the earth or the land, and delight themselves in abundant prosperity. The wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them. But the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he sees that their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend their bows, to bring down the poor and the needy, to kill those who walk uprightly. Their swords shall enter their own heart. Their bows shall be broken. We're not talking about, you get what I'm saying. Their bows, I'm so sorry, I keep saying bows. Their bows shall not be broken. Where was I at? Their bows shall be broken. Better is a little that the righteous person has than the abundance of many wicked. For their arms are wicked and shall be broken. But the Lord upholds the righteous. The Lord knows the days of the blameless, and their heritage will abide forever. They are not put to shame in evil times. In the days of famine they have abundance. For the wicked perish, and the enemies of the Lord are like the glory of the pastures. They vanish like smoke, they vanish away. The wicked borrow and do not pay back, but the righteous are generous and keep giving. Surely those blessed by the Lord shall inherit the land, but those cursed by him shall be cut off. Our steps are made firm by the Lord when he delights in our way. Though we stumble, we shall not fall headlong, for the Lord holds us by the hand. I have been young and now I am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken. For the children begging bread, or their children begging bread. They are even giving liberally and lending. They're ever giving liberally and lending, and their children become a blessing. Depart from evil and do good, so you shall abide forever. For the Lord loves justice. He will not forsake his faithful ones. The righteous shall be kept forever, safe forever, but the children of the wicked shall be cut off. The righteous shall inherit the land and live in it forever. The mouths of the righteous utter wisdom, and their tongues speak justice, and the law of their God is in their hearts. Their steps do not slip. The wicked watch for the righteous and seek to kill them. The Lord will not abandon them to their power, or let them be condemned when they are brought to trial. Wait for the Lord and keep to his way. He will exalt you to inherit the land. You will look on the desecration of the destruction of the land of the wicked, or the destruction of the wicked. I have seen the wicked oppressing in the tower like cedar of Lebanon, and I passed by, and there were no more. Though I sought them, they could not be found. Mark the blameless, and behold the upright, for there is posterity for the peaceable. But transgressors shall be altogether destroyed. The posterity of the wicked shall be cut off. The salvation of the righteous is from the Lord. He is their refuge in the time of trouble. The Lord helps them and rescues them. He rescues them from the wicked and saves them because they take refuge in him. All right, so I'm not going to read another psalm, actually. I realize that it's probably for the best based off of how much time that I have that I go ahead and do my wrap-ups. So that's what I'm going to do real fast. We are going to read the rest that God promised. So we are reading Hebrews 4. And then we're going to make our way over to, actually, that's what I'm going to do. After we finish through tomorrow, hopefully, the rest of Exodus, I'm going to pause for a little bit going through those books so we can finish through what we want to finish here in the New Testament. And after we get through most of this stuff, then we will cycle back and continue working through things like Leviticus and stuff like that and the future stuff. So, reading through Hebrews 4, the rest that God promised. Therefore, while the promise of entering his rest is still open, let us take care that none of you should seem to have failed to reach it. For indeed, the good news came to us just as to them. But the message they heard did not benefit them because they were not united by faith with those who listened. For we who have believed are we who have believed are entering that rest, just as God said. In quotations, as in my anger I swore, they shall not enter my rest, though his works are finished since the foundation of the world. For somewhere it speaks about the seventh day as follows, and God rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again, in this place it says, they shall not enter my rest. Since therefore it remains open for some to enter it, and those who formerly received the good news failed to enter because of disobedience. Again, he sets a certain day today, saying, though through David, much later in the words already quoted, today, if you hear this voice, do not harden your hearts. For if Joshua had given them rest, God would not speak later about another day. So then, a Sabbath rest still remains for the people of God. For those who enter God's rest also rest from their labors as God did from his. Let us therefore make every effort to enter that rest, so that no one may fall through such disobedience as theirs. Indeed, the word of God is living and active and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing until it divides soul from spirit, joints from marrow. It is able to judge the thoughts and intentions of the heart, and make before him no creature is hidden, but all are naked and laid bare to the eyes of one whom we must render an account. Boy, I got tongue twisted on that one. I'm sorry, you guys. So, Jesus the high priest, we are going to read through Hebrews 5, and we're going to switch over to do some Romans real fast, and then we're going to get to Matthew. And then I might actually go ahead and read a little bit more of Exodus so we can kind of really get ourselves prepared to do that. Because we're at a perfect starting point here where we can really start powering through all the rest of Matthew, Hebrews, and Romans. If we can do that, then we'll be in a really good place in the coming Sundays coming up. I'm not going to do all that today, but you get what I'm saying. Since then, we have a high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God. Let us hold fast to our confession, for we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who in every respect has been tested as we are, yet without sin. Let us therefore approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive the mercy and find grace to help in time of need. Every high priest chosen from among mortals is put in charge of things pertaining to God on their behalf, to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. He is able to deal gently with the ignorant and wayward, which we see, by the way, is a beautiful opposition to the same way we just saw those Israelites being held accountable and treated for their own misgivings in the way that sin is presented. So we do see, like it or not, development for narrative and for reasoning. He is able to deal gently with the ignorant and wayward, since he himself is subject to weakness, and because of this, he must offer sacrifice for his own sins, as well as for those of the people. And one does not presume to take this honor, but takes it only when called by God, just as Aaron was. So also Christ did not glorify himself in becoming a high priest, but was appointed by the one who said to him, "You are my son, the day I have begotten you." And he also says in another place, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." In the days of his flesh, Jesus, or he, offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Although he was a son, he, in capitals, he learned obedience through what he suffered. And having been made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, having been designated by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek. This is a warning against falling away. Interesting passage, by the way. What I'm about to read here, just a handful of things I want to talk about, because recently I've encountered people who are very much on the once saved, always saved type of idea. Although, I have a lot of problems with a lot of this type of stuff anyway, but I was asked this question of do you think if you achieve salvation, you can lose that salvation? And then I heard that no, by no means necessary can you do anything to walk away from that. I mean, this big argument ensued, not from me, but from the people around me. So about this, we're reading Hebrews 5 at the very end of it. About this, we have much to say that is hard to explain, since you have become sluggish in hearing. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic elements of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food, for everyone who lives on milk, being still an infant, is unskilled in the word of righteousness, but solid food is for the mature. For those faculties have been trained by practice to distinguish good from evil. All right, so that was Hebrews. Just worked our way through quite a big chunk there, Hebrews 4 and 5. Now let's see if I can work my way over on here to Romans right quick. All right, so I'm going to be reading Romans 3, and then I'm going to be reading Romans 4. Let me make sure I didn't do that yesterday. Sorry, I did. Yesterday, I actually read Romans 3, so today I'm going to read 4 real quick. I'm going to get through that, and then we got a few more things to do, and then we're going to be out of here. I promise you guys, thank you so much that you've taken the time to come, to listen, to discuss with me. I know things got all over the place at certain points, but hey, that's what we're here for, to have time together, even if you're busy or whatever. So, we're reading Romans 4. What then are we to say was gained by Abraham, our ancestor, according to the flesh? For if Abraham was justified by works, he has something to boast about, but not before God. What does the scripture say? Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. Now, to one who works, wages are not reckoned as a gift, but as something due. But to one who does not work, but trusts him who justifies the ungodly, such faith is reckoned as righteousness. So also David pronounces a blessing on those to whom God reckons righteousness apart from works. Blessed are those whose iniquities are forgiven and whose sins are covered. Blessed is the one against whom the Lord will not reckon sin. In this blessing, they're pronounced only on the circumcised, or also the uncircumcised. We say, faith was reckoned to Abraham as righteousness. How then was it reckoned to him? Was it before or after he had been circumcised? It was not after, but before he was circumcised. He received the sign of circumcision as a seal of the righteousness that he had by faith, while he was still uncircumcised. The purpose was to make him the ancestor of all who believe without being circumcised, and who thus have righteousness reckoned to them, and likewise the ancestor of the circumcised, who are not only circumcised, but follow the example of the faith that our ancestor Abraham had before he was. For God's promise to realize through faith is what this next one's entitled. So, for the promise that he would inherit the world did not come to Abraham or his descendants through the law, but through the righteousness of faith. For if it is the adherents of the law who are to be the heirs, that faith is null and the promise is void. For the law brings wrath, but where there is no law, neither is there transgression. For this reason, the promise depends on faith, in order that it may rest on grace, so that it may be guaranteed to all his descendants, not only to the adherents of the law, but also to those who share the faith of Abraham, who is the father of all of us, as it is written. In the presence of God, the God in whom he believed, who gives the life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist, hoping against hope, he believed that he would become the father of many nations, according to what was said it shall be. He did not weaken in faith when he considered his own body, which was already as good as dead, for he was about 100 years old, and the barrenness of Sarah or Sarai's womb. No distrust made him waver concerning the promise of God, but he grew strong in his faith as he gave glory to God, he being fully convinced that God was able to do what he had promised. Therefore, it was reckoned to him as righteousness. Now the words, it was reckoned to him, were written not for his sake alone, but for ours also. It will be reckoned to us who believe in him who raised Jesus, our Lord, from the dead, who was handed over for our trespasses and was raised for our justification. Could you see how when I'm constantly talking about how things, that was wonderful, by the way. Could you see how when I'm constantly making a reference and a discussion about things, how even today and since early church history, we have been negotiating, interpreting, reconstructing. So nothing's been perfect. We have been reconstructing, remodeling how things operate, how things work, not just in general within the faith, but societally as well. Well, we just read that. What are we reading? We're reading a man who was very much a self-proclaimed Pharisee who became a follower of Jesus, who is sitting there saying, hey, by the way, all this stuff you guys have been thinking for so long, that you guys have been taught by the teachers in the synagogue and stuff, we are developing a whole new way. You guys have been looking at it wrong. You guys have been getting it wrong. You're understanding it incorrectly. Here's how it should be understood. So there is a consistent transition of development, of growth. And in one capacity, pastors and so forth will often like to talk about that and point that out. Then in a whole nother capacity, it always comes back to, yeah, but see, here's the context in which change and development happens the way that we see it. Outside of that, though, other junk like just don't happen the way you guys think it does. So just throwing it out there. Yesterday, we read Matthew 7. Today, I'm going to read Matthew 8. So Jesus cleanses a man. Matthew 8. When Jesus had come down from the mountain, great crowds followed him, and there was a man with a skin disease who came to him and knelt down before him, saying, Lord, if you are willing, you can make me clean. He stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I am willing. Be made clean. What the world was that? Oh, sorry, I just got a thing from the pharmacy about the skincare stuff. Anyway, speaking of somebody being needing to be made clean, like when you got eggs in my life, ain't no fun sometimes. But anyway, I am willing to be made clean. Immediately, his skin disease was cleansed. Then Jesus said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest and offer the gift that Moses commanded as a testimony to them. Jesus healed a centurion's servant. When he entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him, appealing to him and saying, Lord, my servant is lying at home, paralyzed in terrible distress. And he said to him, I will come and cure him. The centurion said, Lord, I'm not worthy to have you come under my roof. Only speak the word, and my servant will be healed. Also down here it says, there's another translation, or child. But my servant will be healed. For I also am a man under authority. I also am a man under authority with soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes. And to another, come, and he comes. To my slave, do this, and he does it. The slave does it. When Jesus heard him, he was amazed and said to those who followed him, truly I tell you, in no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from the east and the west and will take their places at the banquet with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob in heaven, in the kingdom of heaven, while the heirs of the kingdom will be thrown into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done for you according to your faith. And the servant was healed. Jesus heals many people at Peter's house. When Jesus entered Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she got up and began to serve him. That evening, they brought to him many who were possessed by demons, and he cast out the spirits with a word and cured all who were sick. This was to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet Isaiah, in quotations. He took our infirmities and bore our diseases. Now next is entitled Would-Be Followers of Jesus. This is now Matthew 8, 18. When Jesus saw great crowds around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side. A scribe then approached and said, Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. And Jesus said, Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. Another of his disciples said to him, Lord, first let me go and bury my father. But Jesus said to him, Follow me and let the dead bury their own dead. And when he got into the boat, his disciples followed him. A windstorm suddenly arose on the sea, so great that the boat was being swamped by the waves, but he was asleep. And they went and woke him up, saying, Lord, save us, we are perishing. And he said to them, Why are you afraid, you of little faith? Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a dead calm. They were amazed, saying, What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him? So this is the next part. Jesus heals two men. When he came to the other side, to the region of the Gadarenes, two men possessed by demons came out of the tombs and met him. They were so fierce that no one could pass the way. Suddenly they shouted, "What have you to do with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Now a large herd of swine was feeding at some distance from them, and the demons begged him, "If you cast us out and us into the herd of, if you cast us out, send us into the herd of swine." And he said to them, "Go." So they came out and entered the swine, and suddenly the whole herd stampeded down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the water. The swineherds ran off, and going into the town, they told the whole story about what happened to the men possessed by demons. Then the whole town came out to meet Jesus, and when they saw him, they begged him to leave their region, and after getting into the boat, he crossed the sea and came to his hometown. So, I'm going to leave it there as far as Matthew is concerned. We went through a handful of things. We didn't get to go through as many different passages of Scripture this time as I do sometimes. I normally read like a lot of different books over the course of time. But today, since we read so much of Exodus, which was very important to do so, just really trying to clobber through it and get through as much of it as we possibly can and talk about, make commentaries on it as we can, answering any questions you may have. Again, appreciate you guys so much for having taken the time to stop through and to talk. It really means a lot to me, more than you think. When I started this channel, just doing fragrance reviews, because I am passionate about perfumery and stuff, and I still do that from time to time. I'm going to do it even more coming up soon. But I used to always hope maybe one day I could talk about like my religious studies and the things that I love my passions, things that mean the world to me. I don't know if anybody's going to want to listen or if people are just going to want to do a bunch of arguing and debates. Seems like on YouTube, people's favorite videos to watch is people debating about stuff like anybody gives a crap. Like that really helps. It doesn't. It's just exciting. We humans like drama and conflict, right? But that's not what I'm here for. And I thought it would bore the snot out of people. And I'm sure for a lot of folks it does. But the fact that any of you guys come through here and we can read the Bible together and talk about stuff, it's really neat. I am going to read, even though it's going to take a minute, I am going to read 2 more sections. So that way there will only be 5 chapters left of Exodus to get through. So I'm going to read 33 and 34 of Exodus, and then we're finally going to wrap this baby up. So thank you so much. Again, I'm Andrew Douglas Moon. You guys are welcome here anytime. Appreciate y'all. Let me see what time it is real quick. All right, I'm doing good. I got good timing going on here. I got some stuff I got to go do myself. So the Lord said to Moses, "Go leave this place, you and the people whom you have brought up out of the land of Egypt, and go to the land of which I swore to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, to your descendants I will give it. I'll send an angel before you, and I will drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, Hittites, the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey, but I will not go up among you, or I would consume you on the way, for you are a stiff-necked people." When the people heard these harsh words, they mourned, and no one put on ornaments. For the Lord had said to Moses, "Say to the Israelites, you are a stiff-necked people. If for a single moment I should go among you, I will consume you." Now, what was that? Sorry, you guys got a random notification. Why am I getting all these things from the pharmacy? They're letting me know that my facial cream for my eczema and my skin disorders is ready. Like I need 5 messages about that. They must think I'm really in bad shape. So now take off your ornaments, and I will decide what to do for you. I will decide what to do to you. Therefore the Israelites stripped themselves of their ornaments from Mount Horeb onward. Now Moses used to take the tent and pitch outside the camp, far off from the camp. He called into the tent of meeting, and everyone who sought to the Lord would go out of the tent to the meeting, which was outside the camp. Whenever Moses went out to the tent, all the people would rise and stand, each of them at the entrance of their tents, and watch Moses until he had gone into the tent. When Moses entered the tent, the pillar of the cloud would descend and stand at the entrance of the tent, and the Lord, or he, would speak with Moses. When all the people saw the pillar of the cloud standing at the entrance of the tent, all the people would rise and bow down, all of them at the entrance of their tent. Thus the Lord used to speak to Moses face to face as one speaks to a friend. Then he would return to the tent, to the camp, but his young assistant Joshua, son of Nun, would not leave the tent. Moses' intercession. Moses said to the Lord, "See, you have said to me, bring up this people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you have also found favor in my sight. Now, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me your ways, so that I may know you and find favor in your sight. Consider, too, that this nation is your people." He said, "My presence will go with you, and I'll give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence will not go, He said, my presence will go with you and I will give you rest. And he said to him, if your presence will not go, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I found favor in your sight, I and your people, unless you go with us? In this way, we shall be distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of this earth. The Lord said to Moses, I will do this thing that you have asked, for you have found favor in my sight. I know you by name, Moses, or down here it says, he. Please show me your glory. And he said, I will make all my goodness pass before you and will proclaim before you the name of the Lord, or Yahweh. Again, I understand for certain people groups, they don't like hearing that name, but there you go. But anyway, and I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious and show mercy on whom I will show mercy. But, he said, you cannot see my face, for no one shall see me and live. And the Lord continued, see, there is a place by me where you shall stand on the rock. And while my glory passes by, I will put you in a cleft of the rock, and I will cover you with my hand until I pass by. Then I will take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. Next up, Exodus 34. The Lord said to Moses, cut 2 tablets of stone like the former ones, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the former tablets which you broke. Be ready in the morning and come up in the morning to Mount Sinai and present yourself there to me on the top of the mountain. No one shall come up with you, and do not let anyone be seen throughout all the mountain. And do not let the flocks or herds graze in front of the mountain. So Moses cut out 2 tablets of stone like the former ones, and he rose early in the morning and went up on the Mount Sinai as the Lord had commanded him, and took in his hand the 2 tablets of stone. The Lord descended in the cloud and stood with him there and proclaimed the name of the Lord, or again, the tetragrammaton YHWH. The Lord descended in the cloud. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, and God merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for the 1,000th generation, or for the thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, yet by no means clearing the guilty, but visiting the iniquity of the parents upon the children, and the children's children to the 3rd and 4th generation. So even here, we are seeing a transition from this all the way into the teachings of Jesus and then to the teachings of Paul. We're seeing an actual legitimate transition of the way that God is being presented as saying how things are going to operate between me and you guys and you and your iniquities. And again, it's not my words. It's what we see here. I know that for a lot of people, depending on how you've been taught to see this stuff, it's really hard to swallow. But we don't want to just deny what we read and what we see. My gosh, they're still sending me stuff from the pharmacy. Anyway, Moses quickly bowed down to the ground and worshipped. And he said, if now I have found favor in your sight, my Lord, I pray, let my Lord go with us. Although this is a stiff-necked people, pardon your iniquity and our sin and take us for your inheritance. He said, I hereby make a covenant before all your people. I will perform marvels such as have not been done or created in all the earth or in any nation, and all the people among you shall live to see the work of the Lord, for it is an awesome thing that I will do. Observe what I command you today. See that I will drive out before you the Amorites, Canaanites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. Take care not to make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land with which you are going, or it will become a snare to you. You've heard this twice now. Rather, you shall tear down their altars, break their pillars, and cut down their sacred poles, or Asherahs. For you shall worship no other God, because the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Sorry, I keep getting these freaking messages. What is going on? All right. Something strange is happening here, and I'm going to have to block Walmart from sending me these freaking text messages. I don't know what is going on. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm really trying to finish this up. You shall not... whoopsie. I am a jealous God. You shall not make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, for when they prostitute themselves to their gods and sacrifice to their gods, someone among them will invite you and will eat of sacrifice. You will eat of sacrifice. You will take wives among their daughters for your sons, and their daughters who prostitute themselves to their gods will make your sons also prostitute themselves to their gods. You shall not make cast idols. You shall not keep the festival of unleavened. You shall keep the festival of the unleavened bread. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread as I commanded you at the time appointed in the month of Abib. For in the month of Abib you came out from Egypt. All that first opens the womb is mine, all your male livestock. It also says down here as well, meaning of Hebrew is uncertain, Theodotian. But anyway, all the male of your livestock. Whoopsie, I lost my place there for a second. The firstborn of cow and sheep, the firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb, or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. All the firstborn of your sons you shall redeem. No one shall appear before me empty-handed. 6 days you shall work, and on the 7th day you shall rest. Even in the plowing time and the harvest time you shall rest. You shall observe the festival of weeks, the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the festival of the ingathering and the turn of the year. 3 times in the year, all your males shall appear before the Lord your God, the God of Israel, for I will cast out nations before you and enlarge your borders. No one shall covet your land when you go up to appear before the Lord your God 3 times in the year. You shall not offer blood of my sacrifice with leaven, and the sacrifice of the festival of the Passover shall not be left until the morning. The best of the first fruits of your ground you shall bring to the house of your Lord God, of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. The Lord said to Moses, write these words, for in accordance with these words I have made a covenant with you and with Israel. He was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights. He neither ate bread nor drank water, and he wrote on the tablets the words of the covenant of 10 commandments, or at the bottom of the 10 words. Moses, the shining face now we're going to see here. Sorry, you guys, the thing tilted a little bit. There we go. Moses came down from Sinai as he came down from the mountain with 2 tablets of the covenant in his hand. Moses did not know that the skin of his face shone because he had been speaking with God. When Aaron and all the Israelites saw Moses, the skin of his face was shining. They were afraid to come near him. But Moses called to them, and Aaron and all the leaders of the congregation returned to him, and Moses spoke with them. Afterward, all the Israelites came near, and he gave them in the commandment all that the Lord had spoken with him on Mount Sinai. When Moses had finished speaking with them, he put a veil on his face. But whenever Moses went in before the Lord to speak with him, he would take the veil off until he came out. And when he came out, he told the Israelites what had been commanded. The Israelites would see the face of Moses, that the skin of his face was shining, and Moses would put the veil on his face again until he went in to speak with him. All right. At this point, we've got 5 chapters left of Exodus. I'm going to call it a day. I'm going to finish this stream with the same texts that I'm always reading. Because it's one of the biggest things that I've talked about over and over again is how regardless of what kind of Christian you are, and this applies to any belief system, but I'm specifically reading from the Bible here. We live in a world of division, of pain, of people making enemies out of one another. We live in a world where people just can't wait to tell everybody who's on the wrong side, who's on the right side, and make sure that they themselves claim that they're on the right side of things and everybody else is just screwed. So I always like to end my streams with Romans 12. Romans 12 and 1 Timothy 1:2. The other day we read through the entirety of 1 Timothy, but I just like to do this because if you've ever, I don't care if you're something else, but if you've ever claimed to be a Christian, then I really hope that these are things that you follow by. Sorry, I got bit by a freaking mosquito. If you don't follow these things I'm about to read, you're not a Christian. Why do I say that? Because that's what the Bible teaches. So we're just going to go ahead and say that. Again, I don't care what your denomination is. I don't care if you're a fundamentalist, a literalist. I don't care if you're extremely liberal. In any direction that you claim to be a follower of Christ, definitionally, let's see what that looks like. Again, Romans 12. I always end my streams like this in case you don't believe me. Go read it for yourself. I don't really care which translation you read from, but this is the NRSVUE. I appeal to you, therefore, brothers and sisters, on the basis of God's mercy, to present your bodies as living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is a reasonable act of worship. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind, so that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and perfect and acceptable. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of yourself as more highly than you ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of God, of faith that God has assigned. For as we're about to figure out the difference between division and diversity. For as in one body, we have many members. Not all the members have the same function. So we who are many are one in body in Christ, and individually we are members of one another. We have gifts that differ according to the grace upon us. Prophecy in proportion to faith, ministry in ministering, the teacher in teaching, the encourager in encouragement, the giver with sincerity, the leader in diligence, and the compassionate in cheerfulness. So here's the next part. Romans 12:9, a lot of times in translations is listed as the marks of a true Christian. Let me read real fast in 1 Timothy 2. Instructions concerning prayer in your living. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for everyone, for kings and all who are in high places. Everyone, he says. This is the right and acceptable before God our Savior, who desires that everyone be saved and come to the knowledge of truth. God himself, as it presents here, desires everyone to be saved and come to the knowledge of truth, not just the people you like, but even the people you don't like. For there is one God, and then there's one mediator between God and humankind, Christ Jesus himself human, who gave himself as a ransom for all. Everyone. Again, not just the people that you agree with. It presents that he did it for everybody. So let's talk about real fast. What are the marks of a true Christian according to the Bible itself? In Romans 12:9. Let love be genuine. What is love? Love is in 1 Corinthians 13:4. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not rude, envious, or boastful, or arrogant. Rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable. It keeps no record of wrongs. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things, because love never ends. So now we know what love is. What does Romans 12 say as the marks of a true Christian? Romans 12:9. Let love be genuine, hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good. Let love one another with mutual affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. Do not lag in zeal. Be ardent in spirit. Serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope. Be patient in affliction, and persevere in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints, and then pursue hospitality to strangers. Very important stuff. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another, and do not be arrogant, but associate with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. If it is possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave room for the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Instead, if your enemies are hungry, what do? You feed them. If they're thirsty, you give them something to drink. For this, by doing this, will heap hot coals on their head. Do not be overcome with evil, but overcome evil with good. If in any way, shape, or form you've ever claimed to be a Christian, read Romans 12 and see if your actions and your behaviors in any way, shape, or form match those activities. I'm Andrew Douglas Moon. I've appreciated the time that I've had with you guys to read through Exodus and all the other stuff that we read through today. I end my streams always with a prayer. No matter what side of the tracks we're on here, no matter where we differ or come together, I do say things in like a snarky way sometimes. I get funny, get silly, or I have a good time. But I really sincerely mean it with all the love in the world that you guys come through here, and I appreciate you with all my heart. So, dear Heavenly Father, in any way, shape, or form that I've been rude, or if I did say anything that was out of turn, please forgive me. I thank you so much for this day, for my wife, my family. I ask for your forgiveness for my sins as a whole in general, and I thank you for your grace and your mercy and your love. Lord, I pray for everybody who's watching, whatever walk of life that they are, whatever their background is, wherever they come from. I just pray that they really come to understand you and have your peace in our hearts. I know that we make our decisions every day. We have our free will, and we constantly fall victim to temptation with our own choices. But we love you, God. We thank you for the opportunity to always choose you and to overcome, to look to you. What did you teach, and how should we act? So I thank you, God. I pray for sincerity. I pray for growth. And then I pray for everyone who's watched, for just blessing your hand being in their life. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know what they're experiencing right now. Whatever it is, I just pray that they turn to you and that they're able to see the ways out or the ways through. Like we just read, to persevere through affliction. And just stick with prayer. We love you, God. So in your precious name, we lift everything up to you and we thank you. Amen, Lord. So again, thank you guys for coming through here. I appreciate y'all so very much. I know it's hard to listen to somebody babble for 2.5, sometimes 3 hours, but you guys are welcome here anytime to check out anything. Later on, I'm going to be getting back to doing my little fragrance streams and stuff, because I still obviously love perfumery and things like that. It's one of my favorite things in the world. One of the greatest to me. Like I love seeing the different forms of art that God has created for us to enjoy and to dive into and appreciate. So, yeah, like I said, does anybody have anything? I know there's only a few people watching at this point, but does anybody have anything you'd like to say, to ask? If not, I'm going to give it 2 minutes real quick. If you got any questions, as a matter of fact, I'm going to run and use the bathroom one more time. To a few people watching, if you got any questions or anything you want to know, please do so, and I'll be right back to answer you. Otherwise, I'm going to call it a day. All right, you guys. Well, it would appear nobody's got anything left to ask or to talk about. So I really do appreciate you guys so much for stopping through. I don't know for sure, but I think I'm going to be able to do one more stream tomorrow at some point or another, hopefully, where we're going to go ahead and finish up the Exodus story. And then we're going to take a pause for a little while in the Old Testament. We're going to come back to that, but I want to work our way through the rest of Matthew while we have the opportunity to do so over these coming Sundays. I'm not going to be able to, after tomorrow, do any more Bible study streams during the week. It's only going to be on Sundays. In the evening times, I am going to be doing my other stuff that I do here on the channel. But outside of that, yeah, it's going to be a little while before we get back to doing this kind of stuff, except for weekly on Sunday mornings, before probably you and definitely me goes to church. If you miss it and you'd like to come back through, you're more than welcome to stop by afterwards. But yeah, I see there's 4 people watching right now. So has anybody got any questions before we go? If not, thank you so much. Or if anything you want to say, but regardless, thank you. I appreciate you guys so very much. I'm going to go ahead and cut my microphone off now. I thought I was. I know it still works after I unplug it or whatever, or at least the phone will still record after I unplug it and stuff like that. But yes, all right, well, it seems that everything is all good and square, so I appreciate you guys, and I'll be seeing you on the flip side.